Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Creation Myths. I am so happy to be back here tonight with my friends, Dapper Dinosaur and Gutsit Gibbon. Erica, I'm just going to wait to make sure that I can see and hear myself on YouTube before we go any further. And then we have so much to talk about. And let's see, I see me. I see the rest of us. I hear me. We're good. Okay, YouTube looks good. Chat, please, just audio-visual issues, let me know. We're going to have a video playing, so obviously if there's any trouble with the sound or the video from the video, let me know. I'll take care of it. So it's kind of funny what's going on here because I am joined by my two friends. Actually, let me introduce everybody first, let everyone talk, and then I'll tell us why we're here and why it's kind of funny. So, Dapper Dinosaur, obviously everyone knows who you are, but please tell everybody who you are anyway.
I'm Dapper Dinosaur. I have a channel. It's called Dapper Dinosaur. It's linked in the title and in the description of this video. So if you don't know who I am, you can click on that. I do a lot of creationism debunking. And sometimes other things, like I've done some flat earth stuff, I've done some mud flood stuff, I've done some electric universe stuff, I've done some, the ancient Egyptians were probably not all just into Eastim. That's probably not true. I've done some of that stuff, which was, that was especially weird for me, but that's okay. That's me.
And Erica, who are you and why are you here?
Hi, yes, my name is Erica. I'm Gutsit Gibbon here on YouTube, and what I do is I talk about the latest discoveries surrounding and adjacent to human evolution, and I also debunk young Earth creationism all the time. And usually what I say is it's like, oh, I debunk a lot of pseudoscience. I debunk creationism. I debunk the race realists occasionally and the Gaia people, the woo spirit science stuff occasionally, but it's mostly creationism. And that's because they're the most fun. They hold a special place in my heart. And,
they're also the ones with
today.
Political power.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And I'm sure we never, there's not been a single stream over the past ever that we have all been on that we have not touched on that at some point. Like
it's
the
really
through line
important
here that matters. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to be doing what we like to do on this channel, which is we're going to be beating a dead horse. So I'm excited.
That's what we're going to do. Yeah. So we are here tonight to talk about an interview from Dr. Rob Carter from Creation Ministries International, in which he steps in it multiple times, and we are going to talk about how and why. And this is really funny because we kind of, I think we all kind of clocked that this interview happened and it was going around in our various chats. And Dapper suggested to me and Erica, I think the phrase was, should we get the band back together?
I do believe that was the phrase I used.
Because our first collaboration, the three of us, way back in, it had to be 2020 or maybe early 2021, but it was a little video called Rob Carter Gets Everything Wrong, which led to the pettiest article that CMI has ever published.
It was wonderful.
We have this ability, and it's not just us, but it's us most of the time, and maybe it's just because we do it more often than anybody else, but we kind of bring out the worst in the young Earth creations.
They hate us.
I see people too. Yeah, they're really not a big fan. They are not at their best. They are not at their most Christ-like when they are engaging with us. And
it's true.
I think that's funny. I love when they get a little sassy. It just delights me to my core when Rob Carter activates messy mode and he starts getting kind of divalicious on main. I love that. So it's sort of a mantle that we wear with pride. And I'm excited to see if we get anything. We're going fishing. We're going to see if we get anything. Today. We'll see what happens. And if not, at the very least, we produce another wonderful resource that explains why you cannot, unfortunately, take what Rob Carter says at face value.
Yes. Before we get into our interview here, I just want to highlight this comment from Mr. EPF. Mr. EPF, you should just keep the band together. It's so funny that somebody should suggest that, because we were talking not that long ago about trying to, despite our various schedules and other obligations, make this a more regular thing that we do. And, like we did with the Dismantled series, rotate the hosting duties and everything. So our schedules, the reason we're doing this here tonight is because we were coordinating dates and it seemed like a Wednesday was going to be the best time to do it. So we said, well, that's my night, so we can just do it here tonight. So here we are. So without further ado, why don't we pull up this video? Now, as you all know, when I pull up the video, it's immediately going to start playing, and that's annoying. I have timestamps. I'm going to let it go for about 40 seconds. It's just that little teaser intro bit that everyone does now. Erica, I know you love the James Tor little trailers that they do. Same thing here. But it's going to give us a taste. It's going to give us this little taste.
Do you think it would be wise to maybe just elevator pitch what we're going to talk about today?
Thank you. Because we talked about that 5 minutes ago, and then I forgot, even though it's in my notes right here, because I'm a professional.
Of course.
Thank you. Thank you for
for being a professional, everybody.
Yeah, only the best for your
little stage direction going on. I like it. Thank you. So the big picture that we're going to see here, folks, is the kind of top line is Carter is taking that paper from last year, the human-chimp similarity paper that Dr. Casey Luskin had so much fun with. And Carter is going to use that to say that this shows that human-chimp common ancestry is not possible. So he's basically doing two things that are wrong here right off the bat. One is the misrepresenting what the 98 versus 85%-ish means. And then he's also basically doing a waiting time problem, as we'll see. But
I also say...
Yeah, you guys go ahead.
Let me just say, but then from there, he kind of backdoors into like Michael Behe, Edge of Evolution, Rate of Change kind of thing going on. He kind of, and then he has like these whole big digressions about integration and complexity, and it's just like, what are we doing?
We get a microscopic version of Look at the Trees. It's Look at Photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis.
Yeah.
It's really incredible. Like he really does speedrun the greatest hits in like the last 4 minutes of this thing. And I don't know how much we'll feel like going through of that. I mean, I really, in theory, we can get through this stuff fast. In practice, that is not going to happen.
Right.
Look,
yeah.
Because it never has.
My kind of aspirational thing is like 2 to 1. So if the video is half an hour, we try to take an hour. We know that's not going to happen. You put the three of us in a room, we're not going to do it. Like, it's not going to happen.
I think we can skip the photosynthesis thing by just saying his only point is, wow, photosynthesis has a lot of steps. Yep.
And also he assumes that oxygenic photosynthesis as done by cyanobacteria was the first kind of metabolism that involved capturing photons, which it wasn't.
No, why would you think that?
It just wasn't.
He also assumes that the last common ancestor between humans and chimps was a chimp, right? Like, he's this is a chimp,
So the thing is, he talks like that. At one point, he catches himself. He's like, the common ancestors between chimps and humans. But the fact that he catches himself and has to say that means that in the back of his mind, he is equating chimpanzees with the common ancestor of humans and chimpanzees, which means he's shoving all the changes that occur between the two lineages onto the human lineage.
Into one lineage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Do you think, too, it might be worth saying, like, just as a quick, in case you don't know, Rob Carter works for CMI. He's a CMI guy, so he's a part of Creation Ministries International. This is, in my opinion, and I'd be eager to hear your guys' perspectives, the best of the big three. Typically the most accurate, typically the least wrong, typically the
least... Oh, go ahead, Dapper, and then I'll throw mine.
I just had low bars, but I agree.
The least, so two things that I think CMI has going for them versus... ICR, AIG, and I'd also lump Discovery Institute in there, is CMI is the least overtly Christian nationalist. There you go. There's your free space on your bingo card. We did it.
Also true.
Right? They're the least overtly Christian nationalist of all those organizations.
Because they're Australian.
And, that's a good point. And they were aggressively pro-vaccine.
Yes,
and then they did a why are all these leopards eating my face thing.
It was hilarious.
It was actually like classic tragic comedy, right? Where they were like, why is this happening? And everybody else is like, are you serious? What do you mean? Why is this happening? You've been poisoning this well for decades. What do you mean?
How can we have attracted an anti-science audience? It's
That's
mysterious.
You can't trust scientists, but also trust the science. And everyone went, no. And they were shocked.
Yeah, they were absolutely floored by it. Yeah, there were some very posts that were lamenting, let's say. I was gonna say like lamentatious. I don't know. What would be what would be like the adjective of lament?
I mean, it would probably just be lamenting. Just take lament and use the active participle.
Okay, the lamenting series of comments and Facebook posts and blog posts where they were like, people, this is how viruses work. Take the vaccine. And then it was just like walls of comments of them being like,
Hundreds.
no, I will not be doing that, actually. Really
From the
incredible
chat
stuff.
real quick.
Now,
Bio Steve says, least wrong should be an award for creationists. Hey, Bio Steve, I would encourage you to go look up the Cambrian Bunny Awards over on my channel, because when it comes to awards for creationists, I got you covered.
And the best is kind of the least wrong.
Yeah, it's in that same sort of category.
Sometimes we give it to best. Goodness, I'm like clearing my throat all day today. The best, we sometimes give the best behaved too. Like those kind of fall into the same category. I want to note too that Rob Carter is a marine biologist by formal training, but he does do genetic stuff. Like he's not. This isn't completely foreign to him. He is decent at talking about it, let's say. And that might seem like a compliment, but this is going to come back around and bite him, because what this also means is that he should know better, right? So we're going to talk quite a bit about that, and especially given he's talked a lot about this topic in many venues across the years. I'm really not sure how he has convinced himself it's okay to say some of the stuff that he's going to spout off with in this video.
In the past, Carter has been billed as a geneticist, and in this video, the host goes out of the way to not say that. Say he has I forget what it's something like he has a background in genetics or training in genetics, but
which is true.
Which is true. It was like marine invertebrate or algal genetics or whatever.
Yeah, I think wasn't he the one who was involved with like putting
bioluminescent stuff
into something? Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to pull up this video. We'll go for the first 40 seconds just to get a taste for what we're all going to experience.
Now that we're 20 minutes into our time.
Well, we started late. It's only been 15 minutes. Only 15 minutes. Okay.
12.
Yeah, 12. 12.
Great.
Just hit the play button.
Heard that human and chimpanzee DNA only differs by about 1%, but there's new research that says that number might be closer to 15%.
Whoa.
Why does that matter?
The reason this is important is because for several decades now, we've been told that humans and chimpanzees can be proved to have a common ancestor. But once that percent difference becomes too large, now it is too large, they could explain maybe 1%. They couldn't explain 5%, 10%.
I'm gonna let it go to 40.
Evolution's dead in the water. It's up to 15%. Massive differences between our two species. They can't do it in evolutionary time. Therefore, there's no reason to reject the Bible from the evolutionary claims, because the evolutionary claims aren't true.
I'm going to say it's a little weird they use the same exact film scratch overlay that I do sometimes. I don't know how I feel about that.
So we have now it's too much. It's too much. The difference is too much to account for by natural processes, right? What's that number that's too much? Let's call it 10 to 15%. Okay, folks? We're writing that down so we can reference back to what is too much for natural processes to actually accommate as we move.
Yeah, it's going to be important.
I think I know where this is going. I think I know where this is going.
I bet 60% of the audience knows where this is going.
I think that's a special tool that might help us later.
I think it might. Yeah, I think it might.
Foreshadowing. All right.
Well, once we get to the hidden data from the supplementals.
Yeah, the hidden data. Oh, let's do it.
All right. Okay. So we're gonna play about a minute here. So I broke this up. Just peek behind the curtain for the audience. I did this afternoon. I went through and I got timestamps that kind of break it up into neat packets. They're like anywhere from 20 seconds to a minute and a half ish. So we're gonna do about a minute here, and then we will talk.
So that last part, that's one of what you say are 4 questions that we have to answer about these.
Yes. It's very important that people understand these 4 questions. The first one is,
leave them hanging.
For a long time, we've all been told that human DNA and chimpanzee DNA only differ by about 1%. So we were all taught that in school. Everybody knows that. But you say that there's some new research that's changing how we think about it, and the difference might be much bigger, more like 15%. So, Dr. Carter, I know that you have a background in genetics and you have 2 gene patents to your name. So to start off with, why does anybody even care about the similarity between humans and chimpanzees?
This is an incredibly important topic. It's something that has been used by the evolutionary community for several decades to say, look, evolution must be true, the Bible must be wrong.
Okay, that's where I wanted to cut it off, because no one says that.
No.
Like,
no one gives a shit whether or not it says the Bible is wrong or not, except for you guys.
Maybe like edgelord atheists in like 2010.
Sure.
Maybe I'll give you that. But outside of that, no one is saying this. And keep in mind, this is a common trope with young Earth creationists. You see it mostly with them. You'll sometimes see it with the ID guys. As usual, the OECs tend to stay out of the fray and do a pretty good job. But with the ID guys and with the young Earth creationists, they must pit evolutionary theory against whatever their interpretation of scripture is. It's God's word versus man's word. In their mind, the theistic evolutionists just are not a thing. They don't have a seat at the table. And so it can sort of be dichotomized in this way that on the face of it is sort of Christianity or whatever, their version of Christianity versus atheism. But in actuality, in their mind, what they're saying is this is a good versus evil thing.
Yeah.
Right? Nakedly, that's what this is. And
because it's the good light of Christianity, which is a very narrow definition of Christianity for them. And then everything else is just outer darkness with the wailing and gnashing of teeth.
Right. And I want to make this clear, as I so often do. There is nothing about common ancestry or evolutionary theory or humans being apes, which descended from more basal apes, that precludes religion or specifically Christianity. These two things can live perfectly happily. They can be copacetic with one another, and more people than ever make them work. So let's do a side. We're just going to go ahead and just breeze past that and say, I think that's dumb and unfair to the many believers who probably agree more with Rob than they would with us on many, many things, but accept conventional science.
Also, I just realized that this interviewer gave his credentials as being more or less the same credentials that Terrence Howard flaunts, which is to say, which is to say, I have patents.
Yeah, the patents.
Which, like, I don't know, man. Maybe when you're trying to talk up your guest, do something that you that wouldn't be just a replica of what Terrence Howard says when he's trying to talk himself up.
A total classic.
But
and I don't know what's in the water with the patents lately. Like, we've seen that from also
yeah, they're not super hard to get. It's weird. But you know what? I bet that Rob Carter has no idea how to open up the flower of life and discover new geometries. So
that's probably true. He doesn't.
What a loser.
Before we get to the next thing, I also just want to point out here that the actual number between humans and chimps is not the thing that actually matters in terms of being consistent with evolutionary theory. It's the pattern across humans, chimps, gorillas, orangutans, all the other primates, right? So, like, it's that nested hierarchical pattern of similarity that gives you the evolutionary history that is consistent with other lines of evidence. Morphology, fossils, all this, right? All of these things go together to show the same thing. Nobody is saying, oh, they're this amount similar. That proves they have a common ancestor. Nobody says that. It's that the level of similarity indicates that humans and chimps share a more recent common ancestor than either shares with anything else.
Right.
Not
and
to
if you're...
I want to add this while we're on this topic. It isn't just the pattern in that we're talking similarity here, right? It's specifically the sequence identity, right? Not the structural differences, because if we're considering things like structural differences, as we'll see, we're going to have some issues. But he's going to bring up the Y chromosome, and we simply must talk about that. So don't worry, I've got all the relevant papers and citations pulled up, so we can talk about it when we get there.
One thing about the similarity is also, if you're going to try to maintain that Pungidae, which is what they use this older term, Pungidae, which was basically the great apes minus humans, which, to be fair, when it was used, it was thought that humans were basically branching to the rest of the great apes, so it made sense to put them in a separate family, but now we know that's not true. But why is it that you have an actual kind, Pungidae, where gorillas and orangutans and chimps and bonobos are actually related through common ancestry to a common ancestor, and yet some of them are more closely related to humans in terms of genetics than others of that group are. That doesn't make any sense. They should all be equally similarly related to humans under a creation model where those are separate creations. And yet that's not what we see. So it doesn't matter, like we said, that it's 1% or 2% or whatever. It's why the hell would chimps and bonobos be more closely related to humans at the genetic level than to gorillas if chimps and bonobos and gorillas share a common ancestor, but they don't with humans?
And I'll add, as you guys are going to see, it is 1 to 2% in the ways that matter most.
Right.
Nobody's saying that that number is what evolutionary theory hinges on. However, there is a reason why whenever we talk about percent similarity genomically between any two pairs of organisms throughout the history of comparative genomics, we've gone with that protein coding number. And we'll talk about that later too, because not doing that has some really interesting and really stupid implications.
Somebody, I just want to highlight, because you just mentioned it right there, and somebody in chat, I think they have an idea of where this is going. I'm definitely feeling an incoming more similar than rats are to mice. I just want to appreciate that whenever we do something like this live, whether it's just me or it's some combination of us, there are people in chat who know the arguments well enough to know what we're going to say, and that makes me so happy.
Me too. And what I'll add is that, like, we all have our catchphrases. Another one of mine is vaporize the granitic crust of the earth 2 dozen times over.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm very pleased. If I had to pick 2 things that are my catchphrase related to arguments that have tried my best to popularize, it's the heat problem and it's the human and chimpanzee genomic similarity. And that contextualized, with other pairs of organisms. So I'm glad to see it.
I'm going to play this for about 10 or 12 seconds, and I think we're all going to appreciate the next 10 or 12 seconds. So let me just do this. Trust me, this is a good one.
Look how similar humans and chimpanzees are. Therefore, we must have had a common ancestor. But it's funny, in the biblical model, we don't make a prediction. God could have made us as similar to chimpanzees as he chose. Sure, we could be 1% difference, or we could be a lot more. It does.
Okay, great.
Rob, not having a prediction isn't a point in your favor.
All right.
That just means you don't have a model that's useful.
So it's unfalsifiable, and God could have done it any which way, anytime, so we're now at last Thursdayism. And we're done. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Dapper, what do you have coming up?
It's
like,
amazing.
that's it. That's
what gives away the whole ball game right at the first minute.
Right away.
Just like, hey guys, I have nothing.
Can we appreciate, for those of us who are interested in young Earth creationism or creationism generally, and its relationship, let's call it, with conventional science over the past 50 years, have you ever seen a time when God could have done it that way? No, I will not cite my sources is an acceptable answer. This is the first time I've ever seen this argument being unironically pushed at the quantity that it is.
I know.
Yeah,
like,
it's certainly it's accelerating.
Yeah, and the reason is because the science is overwhelming.
It's accelerating it's accelerating like nuclear decay during the flood.
Like nuclear decay might. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Super cooling.
Creationism has had this problem for a while where at one point, like, you pick a point in time, right? And you look at what are the things that they say are impossible and we'll never find. And if evolution were true, we'd expect this and we won't ever find it. Then you fast forward like a decade or two. And then they say, oh, all those things that 2 decades ago or a decade ago, we were saying will never be found, not a thing, impossible. No, we predicted that the whole time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the things where they really can't, they'll just be like, well, that must have been a miracle, I suppose. I mean, God can do miracles. That's the whole point. Which, I mean, yeah, I guess it is the whole point of having a God. But, like, it's pretty obvious when you do that, guys. Like, when you were like, yeah, transitional forms, that was just God preparing the Earth for the arrival of humans, Fuzzrana. Yeah, man, that's not a good look, buddy. Not that I don't... Fuzzrana's an okay guy, but, like, come on.
Like, let me hit... Yeah, I really like Fuzz. And, like, Fuzz will also just, to his credit, own it when his stuff isn't falsifiable at present. He'll be like, yeah, this is what I'm working on, but, like, we have a lot of area. I don't know. I like Fuzz. I'm biased. This is another classic tagline, at least that I like to use, which is that, to Dapper's point, creationism, in my opinion, only ever seems to accommodate. It never actually predicts. They'll say they made these predictions. They'll go, we would predict that. Okay, then where did you do that? Where did you predict it? Show me the prediction. Where did that happen? Because last time I checked, you just had Whitcomb and Morris or Duane Gish, or gosh, take it 50 years earlier with George McCready Price, saying there will never be an ape man. And now we're at the point where they're like, there is an entire created kind that is just the ape man.
Just those.
And guess what? They were bipeds too, because even though that morphology looks kind of transitional, well, who's to say that God couldn't have just done it that way and had a created kind that occupied the exact position in morphology and time that we would expect for something that bridges Miocene apes to modern humans? And it's like, okay, boys, I don't know what to say to that. Like, where do we go from here?
I actually do have a favorite young Earth creationist prediction, which was when I believe it was Humphreys who said he predicted the strength of the magnetic field of every planet. But when you look at the math that he used to do this, so basically he assumed that every single planet would be created as a sphere of water of equal volume to that of the planet, and that God would later, I guess, use alchemy to transform it into whatever else. But he assumed that the water was all aligned to create magnetic fields. And so he assumed that strength based on that mass of water all aligned to get that dipole moment for all those water molecules.
Okay.
But then he put in a little factor, I believe it was Q, which could vary between 0 and 1 to represent how random the actual amount was. So it's like, okay, so your prediction can go anywhere from, what if it was all perfectly aligned water molecules, the entire volume, all the way down to 0? And anything within that is your prediction. That's not a prediction, man. That's nothing.
Awesome.
That's any physically possible amount of magnetic field strength could be fit within your prediction.
That's amazing. All right, I'm gonna let this go for about 40 seconds, and then we'll see.
Doesn't matter. So finding that similarity doesn't prove anything, except if they can't explain the number of differences in their evolutionary time, they've got a problem. And yeah, the new information that's coming out, we're a lot different than we thought. We're not 1% different. We're at least 10%, maybe up to 15% different. And in evolutionary time, I don't think they've got enough time to explain that level of difference. That's why this is a big deal.
So,
okay, I just want to say with this, now we're in classic waiting time problem mode. And the thing that he's going to do here throughout this, and then he changes gears at the end, which is weird because he recognizes that he's saying something wrong, but he does it a lot anyway, is that this, aside from all the other waiting time problems, he's assuming that every mutation has to be a single base point mutation, not a large scale indel or something, right? And because if you can have 1,000 nucleotides duplicated or deleted, now you've got 1,000 differences instead of just one. Right? But that's one single evolutionary event. It's not 1,000 events.
I have him on camera off videos cribbed from his own channel saying exactly that, right? When he's talking about how this is a difficult sort of likelihood to come up with, he's like, because the reason why is because we don't know if we're looking at a single nucleotide polymorphism, like a single base pair change, or large scale deletions or substitutions or inversions or whatever. He knows this. Now, I want to add something here, too. He has said, again, that we might be looking at a 10 to 15% difference, and that is too big of a difference for the evolutionary timescale that we have. The evolutionary timescale being about 7 million years. He's going to say 6. I'm going to say 7 because that's the more conventional number that I tend to see used, at least in paleontology. 6 to 7. Now, contrast that with the amount of time that the creationists have, that Rob has, which is 6,000. So we have a ton of time.
Less than 6,000.
And not very much. We're being super generous. I know we could say 4,400. We could say a year. We could say up until the Egyptians fixed the pyramid.
I go with 400. I like to do 400 because you have 500 from the flood to Middle Kingdom Egypt, but you got to lose 100 for the singular ice age. So I like to use 400. I'm going to
give them the maximum amount of time that they have in their entire universe because
you're so nice.
It doesn't matter.
It is generous.
You're going to see it straight up doesn't matter. So we've got 10 to 15% of difference. That's too much to overcome for organisms that are actually related at least if we only have 7 million years. Keep that in mind.
But Erica created heterozygosity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know.
Have you considered that God just did it that way?
I
he
have
could have done it anyway.
that.
Oh, okay.
I have considered that. It's going to be really cool to see how that bears on, yet again, the falsifiability of this hypothesis and also other organisms which we can compare. I'm excited.
Should we continue?
I believe so.
By all means.
Let us continue. Okay, we're at 2:27. We're going to go for about a minute, folks. So get your thoughts, and then after about a minute, we'll...
That last part about how evolutionary time can't account for the differences, that's one of what you say are 4 questions that we have to answer about these.
Yes. It's very important that people understand these 4 questions. The first one is real simple. If you have 2 genomes and they share things, if you line up the parts that are in common between them, what's the percent similarity? That's a number we can calculate now. We couldn't do it until less than a year ago before we finally had a finished chimpanzee genome. The second question is, what happens when you add in all the things we...
I just want to point out that when Pantro 6, which is the first non-humanized chimpanzee genome, was published, estimates for similarity barely budged. It turns out that if you build a chimpanzee genome and you scaffold it based on a human genome, you still get a pretty darn good result, which is something the creationists were telling us probably wouldn't be the case. That's one of those failed predictions that now they're just like, oh, no, that's fine. Don't worry about it.
Hey, Dan, could you do me a favor and share my screen?
Oh, yeah, totally. Here you go. Well, hang on. Let me get to the end of this segment, which is like another 20 seconds. And then I just want to highlight this comment from Jillian Wren. It's so funny that Dan actually lets video play. Dapper never does that. And as she was making that comment, what happened?
I interrupted. My bad.
It's perfect. Okay, that was great timing. All right, so let me do get to the end of this little bit, and then Erica, I will put up your graph here.
Don't share. Like we might have 5 copies of a gene. Chimpanzees might have 2 copies of a gene. Well, there's 3 copies of a gene. There's a giant gap there in a chimpanzee genome if you line them up. And when you fold in all the things we don't share, the percent similarity is, 12, 13, 14, 15%. It's a lot.
Okay, there, we wanted to get to that. Okay, so the problem is big numbers. Take it away, Erica. Here you go.
Share my screen real quick.
I have to take this one down first. There we go. Now we got it.
Okay. This is a really phenomenal little graphic that shows how the chimpanzee and human genomes have changed with regard to completeness over the years. The first copy of first version, I should say, of Pantroglodytes, so Pantro 1 there, through the second version, Pantro 2, and then the third version, Pantro 3. Likewise, on the right side, you have an early draft of the human genome, followed by a sort of middle-range human genome, and then the most complete telomere-to-telomere, fully sequenced human genome that we got in 2021. Now, what's really cool about this is that this graphic here tells us that what Rob is saying is not correct. He's talking about how all of these numbers are brand new and how this is kind of jaw-dropping, and how until this point we couldn't really get a good read about the similarity between humans and chimpanzees. Now, this wonderful little graphic shows us that actually we could get a pretty good estimate, even if we were comparing Pantro 2 to the human chromosome or the human genome second version there, I think it's HGCH38. I think that's the actual abbreviation. It's like you're going to get a pretty good estimate with that. But we also had several years where we were comparing Pantro 2 to the telomere-to-telomere version of humans, right? It was only about a year and a half in between that and you et al. So that's really neat. That's super interesting. It seems like this graphic might be a problem for Rob Carter, at least insofar as what he said here. Ask me who made this graphic.
Erica, who made that graphic?
Rob Carter. Rob Carter made this graphic.
How weird.
Rob Carter made this graphic. So, why is he saying this? Why is Rob Carter pretending?
My guess is Dapper has a hypothesis for that question.
I do.
The hypothesis, Dapper.
The hypothesis is that this graphic is now inconvenient for him, so he's just ignoring that it ever existed.
Yeah, because guess what, Dapper? He made this graphic right after he acquiesced to my point that Jeffrey Tompkins's work all sucked. This was before you et al. Came out and before Luskin did his mega lie. And so he had the opportunity to say, okay, I am taking the side of conventional science here. And then the nanosecond he got the opportunity to walk that back, he walked it back. But that's where this graphic comes from.
I just Prixie Purple saying the quiet part out loud. It's almost like he is a liar. It does make you wonder.
I emailed Rob today before this and was like, hey, we're doing this show. I know it's late notice, but call in if you want to. There's no shot he would call in, but I'll keep checking my email anyways. I've got it pulled up in the background. But the reason I would like to talk to him is because I really don't want to call Rob a liar here. I want to believe that he's got some kind of a why he's proposing the things that he's proposing, but I'm at a loss here at this point. I'm at a loss after seeing the article that he released right after Luskin's 12-plus article screed, and I'm at a loss after this video, because as you're going to see, he's contradicting himself and his own model, in addition to, in my opinion, outright ignoring data that is adjacent, like literally right next to the data he is quoting. And we will pull that up on the screen later. And I find that incredibly frustrating because, as you guys know, Rob Carter's one of my faves, or was. I don't know where we'll go from here.
We here, I think I can speak for the panel, we are Rob Carter enjoyers, in that we appreciate his content. It's always on location somewhere. There's always an interesting story, a connection, and I love that. But come on, Rob. Come on, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Erica, thank you for actually putting work and thought into this, as opposed to me, who I'm just like, let's just watch the video and talk about it. So
dude, I got all my shit pulled up and ready to go. This is my pet subject, and much like you with the Lenski stuff, I got this off the top of my head. I got figures on figures on figures on figures. I got annotations. I've got highlighted quotes. I'm ready to go here.
There you go. All right, back to the video for however long we're up to.
But there's two other questions that most people don't even consider, and these are really important. One is, how many mutations must have happened in our evolutionary history for evolutionists to explain the difference? What I mean is, most mutations are lost. Almost all mutations, something like 99.999% of brand new mutations are going to disappear at random.
Interesting.
So if you have a mutation, let's say it affects something in your body, and then you have some children, well, it's a 50-50 chance you're going to pass it to any child. And it's a 50-50 chance that child's going to pass it to any one of their children. Well, you flip a coin enough times and you're going to come up with tails. And the mutation disappears. So they have to have a lot of mutations. I don't think they can explain that. But then
it's an interesting thing. Interesting that he would say that, because sometimes creationists, even creationists named Rob Carter, will conflate the mutation rate with the rate of long-term mutation substitution in a genome of a population over time. So it's a little weird that he would right here say that most mutations fall out of the genome. It's Robert.
Assumptions.
Why do I feel like you're going to forget that within the next 30 minutes?
As soon as we start talking about something that isn't this, we're going to, right, when they need the mutation rate, or the substitution rate, more correctly, to be slow, lo and behold, how are we going to get all these mutations? When they need it to be fast.
Every single mutation sticks around forever in every single member of the population always.
Yeah. It is interesting how those two ideas are simultaneously held in one's head.
It is so interesting, Dan. It is just so interesting.
I mean, what he's describing here is very like day one, maybe not day one, week 2 population genetics, where if you have the complete absence of selection under pure genetic drift, you can just do the math and the mutation rate will equal the substitution rate. But when you introduce other factors into that population, like, I don't know, natural selection, which we all agree is a real thing, then that is no longer the case, right? So what it's kind of tangential to this video's topic, but it is notable that they will, kind of do both sides of that, especially just to take it one more step, when you have one set of creationists, the non-ICR camp, arguing against Randy Galuza and continuous environmental tracking, and you're like, okay, fellas, you can explain to other creationists that natural selection is real. Now apply that to the Y chromosome mutation accumulation rate. And then, no, we can't do that. That's mutation substitution rate of the same for that, right? But we're talking to Randy, natural selection is real. Get out of here with that CET stuff.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
The fourth question, the big question, it's really the evolutionary question, is, okay, yes, some letters that change in our genomes don't do anything. They don't matter. But there are genes that separate us. There are things that make us different than chimpanzees. We look different, we act different, we behave, we eat different foods, we like different temperatures, we're smarter.
Different foods is barely.
Those things have to appear in our species, spread out to all people in the species, and then become functionally integrated into the genome. Genes aren't just independent. Genes work in gene networks. There's no gene that just operates by itself. There are things that affect it, and it affects other things. The genome has to be regulated, and that's the killer. That's the thing that kills evolution dead, because we're not talking about simple letter change that are irrelevant. We're talking about things that actually have an effect on the organism. They have to be orchestrated. They have to be tied in. And I don't think they have any time at all to get that to happen.
Okay, so this is great because I did post the bingo cards that I made in chat, and people are playing along. And I just want to, I have irreducible complexity on my bingo card. And in my notes, I have, now he's just doing irreducible complexity, maybe with a bit of the Behe edge of evolution rate issue, which is waiting time adjacent. So if you were to like kind of daisy chain these arguments together, you get irreducible complexity, edge of evolution, waiting time kind of connected that way. That's all he's doing here. And like, I've personally done the math on this for humans and chimps, because you don't need a whole bunch of new genes to get from the common ancestor to either one. There have actually been papers on this looking at the number of novel sites under positive selection in each lineage, and the number of new adaptive mutations is less than 2,000.
Wow. And by the way, that would mean that only 1,000 need to happen over the course of that whole history, right? Like, we don't need to...
Right.
Okay.
When I did the math, so this is one of those things where I did the math being extraordinarily generous to creationist, where I was just like, let's round up, let's double it for no reason. And you know what? Let's just assume that there's a whole bunch of such sites that we haven't figured out. So let's just like add another couple thousand for no reason. And like, even if you do that, with all these ridiculously generous assumptions and just basically just giving creationists like 10,000 mutations for free, the number they're citing is like 30 million.
Yeah.
And the actual number, if you're really, really nice, is like 10,000.
Not to mention, we've managed to isolate for many of the major changes that would have to happen. Like the one I've been bringing up over and over and over again is getting the human pelvic complex from a sort of Miocene ape pelvic complex, which looks really similar to modern day chimps. We've got Rudopithecus. It looks similar to modern chimp pelvis. So in that way, they're quite similar because the pelvis is really conserved in hominoids in general. And we have the genetic pathway. I mean, we managed to isolate the specific genetic changes that would need to happen, and then how they actually rotate the growth plate of the ilium on either side, going from being sort of in the sagittal plane to being in the coronal plane. Or rather, what it does is it changes it from growing tall and thin to growing short and wide. And then as the musculature develops, that pulls it into the coronal plane because of the way that the bone is actually growing. So like we know how this works, at least in many of the major like physiological and morphological changes that define humans and make us unique from other apes, other living apes.
But Erica, have you considered how long it would take for not just for those changes to happen? Because I want everyone to recognize the goalpost move that just occurred here. We're now not just talking about the mutations have to happen. We're talking about integrating those new alleles or genes or whatever into the existing system. And Erica, have you calculated how long that would take? No? Oh man, how can we trust evolution if you can't even know?
Here's something I would like to point out, right? So it's pretty rare to find a creationist who does not accept that dogs are in fact descended from wild wolves. Now, we have a pretty good idea of the genetics, like, you know, what's in the genome of both dogs and wolves. And one of my favorite little facts about dogs is that in addition to having extra facial muscles that wolves don't have, dogs also have several extra copies of the amylase gene, which is regulated to be expressed in cell types that do not normally express amylase. This is because wolves have very low starch diets, whereas dogs tend to have pretty high starch diets because they eat human food a lot of the time. So what this means is that because these genes are unique to a single subspecies of gray wolf, we have to either conclude that dogs and gray wolves were created separately at creation and were both as separate kinds on the ark, or organisms can get new genes that can be integrated and regulated just fine within a few thousand years. Because no one thinks that the divergence time between dogs and wolves is like 5 million years. It's like maybe a few tens of thousands of years.
It's like 4,500 max, or not 4,500, 45,000 max. Like that's the upper end of the dog domestication. 42, I think. 42,000 years is when we think that process sort of began.
Let's just give it 50,000 years.
So Erica, before you jump in, I just want to say, Dapper, thank you for saying that. I had that in my notes to say that later, that everybody agrees that new genes can happen because you have like species-specific orphan genes within created kinds. So everybody agrees that new genes can evolve unless creationists want to either go species-level creation, which Rob kind of hints at later on.
Yes, he does.
Or God is doing the divine genetic engineering thing along the way, which now we're in, as I've been calling it, genetic Calvin ball. So whatever.
Yeah, it is. It's genetic Calvin ball. And it's also like, what did Stadler call it? Design mutability, where we've got an active tinkerer who is leaving no trace of themselves and how they're actually interacting with the genome. It's genetic Calvin ball is a perfect way of putting it. Yeah, let's continue. Sorry, there's a lot to cover.
Okay, yeah, I know we're 40 minutes in and we've covered 5 minutes. We're doing great. It gets repetitive. There will be times where we're like, and we did that, and we're gonna skip parts. Don't worry, folks. Actually, I'm gonna skip a part right now, because we're gonna jump to. There's like a little summary section here, so we're gonna jump to there. Okay, here we go. This is gonna be for about 40 seconds.
To those two groups.
Okay. So the first question then, I guess, how do we even measure similarity, though?
Oh, man, that's so hard. It was easy when we were just comparing proteins back in the 80s. It was easy when we could sequence individual genes and line genes up. But now that we have entire genomes, I mean, for instance, let's say we have a copy number difference. We have a different number of genes than chimpanzees do. So, the one gene, we have duplicates of it. Maybe they have more copies than we do. So you can take the 2 copies we have, line it up to 2 best matches in theirs, but there's a couple more copies. What's the percent difference there? There's a hole. What's something divided by 0? You can't calculate it.
God damn it, Rob. Counterpoint, yes, you can.
Yeah, you have to come up with some definitions and how you're going to account for these things, but you can just do that. And is it easy? No, I'm not going to say it's easy, but you can do it. People do it. One of the ways you can tell is that your buddy, Jeffrey Tompkins, thinks he can do it. Rob, why are you saying that he's wrong about the very most basic thing that he thinks he can do this comparison? Because that wasn't your position before. You just thought he did a shit job, which, I mean, to be fair, he did. But you weren't saying, well, this is an impossible pipe dream in the first place. Why is Jeffrey Tompkins even trying? That wasn't your position.
Yes, we are. Eric, I think you're muted.
Oh, you're muted, yeah.
Damn it, no wonder nobody heard me. I kept being like, and I was like, oh man, the woman moment from my best friends here. Just kidding. Shoot, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, I was going to say, Jeffrey Tompkins is not mentioned one time. His name is not mentioned at all during this video, which is a very different tone, by the way, than what he took for his article immediately after Casey Luskin started wet in the bed on this whole issue. But I want to make a note here. There are many different ways to compare genomes. It's not that comparing genomes is impossible. It's that it's difficult to choose which method is most appropriate under given circumstances. But as long as you're clear on what you're comparing, absolutely you can compare them. in protein coding regions, which is what he was talking about at the beginning here, which you're comparing the regions of the genome that actually do stuff. This is a very small portion of the genome itself, like what, 2%, 1.5%, 2% is protein coding. So
about 1.5, yeah.
Yeah, 1.5. So you're not comparing very much of the genome, but that is the bulk of what is actually making and maintaining you. So those are arguably the most important bits, at least at a basic level. Now, then you take a step up and you say, okay, well, there's a lot of regulation, or at least some regulation going on in the remainder of the genome. So what if we want to compare that to? You can absolutely do that. But you have to take into account that repetition and deletions and duplications and inversions are going to mess you up too, which is why you tend to align the entire genome. And then the portions that align are the portions that you actually compare, because those portions that aren't aligning are not aligning because they are brutally dissimilar. They are difficult to align due to repetitive regions, duplications, inversions, and occasionally some actual differences, which is why they were omitted for a very long time. Now, you absolutely can compare them, and we have those numbers. Rob's got them. He's given them to us for humans and chimps already. 10 to 15% different. We're talking about an 85% or 90% similarity between humans and chimps. Wow. Boy, that's so interesting. And it means absolutely nothing in isolation. We need comparisons to actually ground it. And what's so awesome about that paper, the one that Rob is mentioning but never overtly brings up by name, if memory serves, is that it gives us those comparisons. It provides that context for us so that we can see what that chimpanzee human number actually means, what it's telling us about the similarity between these two organisms. We're going to talk about that a lot more later, but like, he's right. It's difficult to compare things, but not impossible. And as long as we specify what it is that we're actually comparing and we're consistent across our organisms, all is well. And we actually have all of those methods of comparison for humans and chimps and indeed other animals. So we can see ourselves and contextualize ourselves. And as I said, what that similarity means.
So I'm just skipping a little bit here where Rob is basically talking down to his audience in a way that is familiar to us as, gene sin and Purdom. It's similar to that stuff. There's no substance to it. So
before we do that, I have a real quick question for Erica.
Go.
Yeah.
Erica, have you considered that it's impossible to figure out how to do this correctly?
I have not considered that, unfortunately.
Okay.
I like to imagine that Carter after the fiasco that was him defending Tompkins and then trying to disprove me, showing that I had gotten aspects of my methods wrong, and then also revealing that he couldn't replicate Tompkins's work and that all of Tompkins's work was invalid, and then me redoing my work and him being completely radio silent on it, but still copying to the fact that Jeffrey Tompkins's work holds zero water. I think maybe that exercise in trying to run genomic comparisons has black-pilled him on the subject because it keeps giving really inconvenient answers. For example, Rob Carter, in the last series of videos he did on this subject, on the human-chimpanzee genomic similarity, has an entire section in a presentation that he gives to Logos Research Associates, I think, if memory serves, where he's like, yeah, it does look like human chromosome 2 is a fusion of 2 ape chromosomes. He's like, but that doesn't mean they're related. That could have just happened in the human lineage too. It's like he did the work and shows this in just breathtaking detail. And he sits back and he's like,
nah.
How can I spin this?
And the answer turned out to be, yeah, but what if it's not?
What if it's not? Not even that, Dan. It's even worse than that. It's okay, it is, but like if you squint, you can make it make less sense. You can make it inexplicable. You can make it less explicable if it's just like God creates humans to look exactly like the other apes, to make it appear just as if a fusion happened, but actually it didn't. It was all an illusion. Functionality, common design, something. We'll get there.
So I'm going to go through this next part. There's a quick little bit here, about 20 seconds. And I want to point one quick thing out here that Carter does, and then another 20 seconds. And Dapper and I are going to go take a nap. And we're just going to let Erica go for like an hour.
Yeah.
You'll see why.
Yeah.
You'll see why. So let's just.
And a lot of them are kind of based on just assumptions and parameters that you set when you're analyzing this.
Yes, absolutely. You have a computer program, you type in your expectations, and you run the computer program. Change that, you'll get different results. But there are massive differences between our genomes. We at least know that.
Okay, so the thing that Rob is doing here that is so galling is he's implying that you can futz with the parameters of your program to get the answer you want. And as somebody who has spent a lot of time doing that, he knows that there are valid and invalid ways of doing this. And when you do it the right way, you get a very tightly constrained range of answers. So he is implying dishonesty here, and he knows it's bullshit.
Not to mention, Dan, you can futz with the parameters. You can say, okay, cut the match if it gets below a 50% similarity. You can do that in BLAST, which is what Rob Carter learned how to do. But the problem is, this is why they never do it. Pay close attention, folks. They never include other pairs of organisms because it doesn't matter what your parameters are. If you are consistent in their application and you include humans, chimps, and gorillas, humans and chimps will be more similar to one another than either is to a gorilla. In sequence identity, full stop, period. It does not matter which method you use. It doesn't matter what parameters you use. You're going to apply them consistently across that triad, and that's the result you're going to get. And that annihilates common design as an answer for this. And it also forces them to choose a created kind model that has chimps and gorillas as separate kinds. And that's, spoiler, that's what Rob is going to do, or at least heavily imply at the end of this video. Now, what happens if you standardize that across the animal kingdom? Every animal genus is its own created kind? Are you serious? The ark is underwater. It is 12 times overloaded.
And it's going to smell really bad.
Yeah, mind you, this is the entire reason why created kinds were invoked in the first place. All the way back with George McCready Price. The whole reason why created kinds were invoked is to make enough room on the ark. If it's at the genus level, you're screwed.
The thing is, if it weren't for the size constraints that the Bible puts on the ark and the fact that they're not willing to go TARDIS ark, separate species level creation, or at least genus level creation, would be so much easier for them to account for. There would be so much less data that they would have to worry about, because they could just say, oh, well, yeah, but those differences are just created that way.
Created, yeah.
And it was the arc was huge. It was the biggest bow ever of all time. The fact that they get the metrics is devastating.
That makes it harder.
That author of Genesis who put in those measurements, what a dick.
Man.
He was trying to include some really immersive world building.
You know what it was, Dapper? The author wanted to get a patent.
Oh, right. Yeah. Right. You got to get those patents.
Right.
It had to be, new and non-obvious. So you had to have specifics.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So Erica, this part's for you.
Great. I'm ready.
The Y chromosome, chimpanzees are missing half of it. We have an extra half of a chromosome they don't even have. And then when you look at the parts that we share, it's 20% similar or less. It's massively different.
All right, I'll be back in half an hour. You have fun with that one.
I thought you were giving me just similarity in general. I can talk about the Y chromosome too. What I'm going to do, actually, Dan, isn't it right after that he does our 10 to 15%? Can I maybe talk about this?
So what it is there's about 2 minutes and change. Well, it's actually 4 minutes that I'm going to skip because it's all that history stuff with the old experiments with the hybridization rates. Sure. And we're just going to skip all that crap. We don't care.
Actually, there's one thing I want to say about that real quick.
Okay, well, hang on. And then after that, then he does the supplementary data thing.
Okay.
I'll say this about Y chromosome for now. The human and chimpanzee Y chromosome are very different structurally speaking. Actually, all the great ape Y chromosomes are very different structurally speaking. Actually, mammals in general are experiencing accelerated change in their Y chromosome because sexual selection is an incredibly powerful thing. Now, evolutionary theory makes this really neat prediction that if the reason the Y chromosome in chimps and humans is as different as it is because of this selective pressure resulting from the mating system that chimps have, which is a fission-fusion mating system that involves immense amounts of sperm competition, then we would expect that within the chimpanzee genus, Pan, we should also see a vast amount of difference between the sizes of the Y chromosome and the content of the Y chromosome amongst the Panids. And we do. When you compare the Y chromosome of bonobos and chimpanzees, they're drastically different to one another, far more than we would compare or than we would accept, right, for these created kinds that Rob would accept for created kinds. If this number was actually the human chimp number, they would wave their hands and say that's way too different. Now, what's cool about this is we can compare the portions of the Y chromosome that can be aligned, and those portions are still very similar, like exactly what we would expect for human and chimpanzee. And of course, they unite the humans, chimps, and bonobos to the exclusion of gorillas. It is the structural differences that are different between humans and chimps, and that's because they've had so many of these large-scale deletions. So if Rob wants to use the Y chromosome to separate out humans from chimpanzees, he's going to separate out chimps from bonobos, and that's obscene. Like, that's insane, right? Also, the majority of the differences in the chimpanzee Y versus the human Y are, again, due to those deletions. So this is something that they would accept is very easy to evolve because it's changed via large-scale deletions over time, gene death. This is something that Rob appeals to in the comment section of his video or of his article to explain the gorilla differences.
All the time.
Like, so you can't have your cake and eat it too here, right, Rob? Like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Hey, Erica, I got a question for you because you're, in this group, you're the expert on these specific comparison techniques here. Do we ever do these types of genome comparisons based on the structure of chromosomes as opposed to the sequence?
Never. That has never once happened. And like, I've explained this to Donnie, I've explained this to Tompkins, I've explained this to Carter. He knows this. And again, we're going to talk about why we don't do that here later on, because when you count structural differences, which again are these large-scale architectural changes, deletions, duplications, etc., you end up with some really uncomfortable numbers that I don't think anybody in their right mind, outside of some real freaks, would be okay with regularizing as like the go-to method. Not to mention they're just uninformative. They don't tell us anything. You can have two people that differ drastically because one has had a large deletion in comparison to the other. Between parent and offspring, this can happen, right? Yeah. Like, this is documented stuff. So we're going to get to that later, but like, I'll bring up the Y chromosome stuff again once I've got the paper pulled up, because I'm going to pull up the paper. I hope that's fine.
Dapper, before we get to your comment on the part that we're skipping here, the kind of historical experiment part, I just want to point out this comment, which is extremely astute, because all of this is obvious to us, but not to Carter's audience, and that is the point, right? Carter's audience doesn't know better, so they're just going to swallow it. And then they're going to think vaccines are bad because scientists bad.
Right. And Rob's going to be like, how could this happen?
It's a mystery. All right, Dapper, go ahead. What's your...
So the thing that he's going to talk about that we're going to mostly skip is that he's talking about this very basic early way to compare genome similarity, where you basically just take as much genetic material from two different organisms as you can get, and you put just the DNA, which you can separate out. It's not that hard to do. Into basically like a flask, you mix it together, and then you boil it, and you see how long it takes for the DNA to recombine, because what's going to happen is it's going to basically unravel and come apart to some degree as a result of the heat. And then when it joins back together, it doesn't super care if it's joining back together with the DNA from the same organism or the other one, but the rate at which it comes back together is going to be proportional to the similarity between those two sets of those two genomes. Which means that is a way to compare whole genome similarity, Robert.
Yeah.
The thing you said we couldn't do. Yep. You just described a way to do it. It's not the best way. It's not the most sophisticated. It's not going to give us the finest grain detail. But that's literally what's going on there, Robert.
Okay. This part is going to be short. Hold it. All of our heads are going to explode halfway through this, but just hold it until I pause. It's only like 30 seconds.
But as soon as they did that, once we had this long-range sequencing technology that can go through all those gappy regions, as soon as they did that, 6 months later, they did the chimpanzee, and the gorilla, and the orangutan, and the gibbon. And that paper, a year and a half later, has finally been published, and it was shocking. Well, first of all, they put the information in the supplementary data,
Okay.
Not in the main paper. You had to dig through 100 and more pages of supplementary information, and that information is right there. When you do all the adding of all the things that don't line up, it's like 85%.
Okay. Can I seize on this or
Go.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen. But first, you guys need to know that I have pulled up both the paper and the supplementary material in the background, and the page that you find this material on is 27. It's page 27 of the supplement material. Now, of the supplementary material, I should say. Now, first, I'm going to share my screen, and what you're going to see initially of my Adobe here is going to be...
Hey, Erica, you need to share your screen. There it is.
Yeah.
We got it.
This, what you guys can hopefully see now, let me hop back over and make sure that it's showing. Yeah, what you can see right here, this is the main text, right? Like this is the actual text of the paper. This is not the supplementary material. And in this section right here, divergence and selection, overall sequence comparisons among the complete ape genomes revealed greater divergence than previously estimated. That's true. Indeed, 12.5 to 27.3% of an ape genome failed to align or was inconsistent with simple one-to-one alignment, thereby introducing gaps. I have yet to see any of these guys read the paper because this is the information that they're talking about here, 12.5%, right? This is the gap divergence number. And you add in the single nucleotide polymorphisms or single nucleotide variations, variants, whatever, and it's going to drop a little more. It's going to get you to about that 85% range for humans and chimpanzees. But like, here it is in the main text, not scrolled away in the supplement. That being said, I want to show you two things here. One is our actual phylogenetic tree, because the reason why the material that was in the supplement is because it was not new. This material, this publication was not focused. Jesus, can I maybe get up here? Here we go. This publication was not focused on the percent similarity between humans and other apes. It was focused on the minutia of the completed genomes of these other apes to look specifically at how they actually differ, not just from humans, but amongst one another, right? The mini centromeres that you see in bonobos, right? The heavy structural differences that you even see amongst gorillas. And yet, even with all of that, here's our phylogenetic tree, the same tree that we've produced every single time in every single genomic study on these guys. Here's Panpaniscus, here's Pantroglodytes as sister groups. Then the most similar to that dyad is Homo sapiens. The most similar to that triad is gorillas. The most similar to that quad are the orangutans, genus Pongo, so Pongo abelii and Pongo pygmaeus. And then we have our Siming, Symphalangus and Dactylus. So nothing, it wasn't reported as new because it wasn't news. Now, that being said, let's go to the supplement. That's here. Can you guys see that okay?
I can.
Okay, sweet. I'm going to zoom out.
Scroll a little bit.
Yeah.
And zoom in.
I'm going to try to get us a little bit.
Oh, yeah, this is that famous chart that is sometimes only partially reproduced.
Yeah, it's weird how that works.
Famously.
Goodness gracious almighty. There we go.
There you go.
All right. Hopefully that's...
No, Erica, you can just show the top half because I've been reliably informed that the bottom half doesn't matter.
That's such a good point, Dan. So this is the specific graph, one of many that these guys will home in on here. The supplementary figure 3.12, plots of 1 megabase segments binned by gap divergence for each pairwise alignment. So this is the alignment taking into account those large scale gaps that Rob Carter was talking about. What you can basically do is you can look here on the y-axis at the comparison. So you've got Pongo abelii versus the telomere to telomere human, and then the reverse, and then gorilla versus human, and then the reverse, and then Panpaniscus versus the human, then the reverse, chimpanzee versus human, and then the reverse. And then in purple, you've got the intraspecific variation within each species. So the variation that we saw within orangutans, the Sumatran and Bornean orangutans, actually, I think we're only looking at Bornean here, within gorillas, within bonobos, within chimpanzees, and within humans. And if you want to get the percent similarity, all you have to do is take what's in purple, because that's your autosomal number. You can include the sex chromosomes if you'd like, but it's not really important for what we're talking about today. And you just take 100 minus that number, and that's how you get your percent similarity. So that's how they get that similarity between humans and chimps, is they look here and they say, look, 13% different, right? Or in the reverse, about 12.5% different. So that's like barely similar at all. And when you count those S and Vs, that's only 85%. Cool, interesting. What's that purple, right? Like what's going on in that purple? Well, it looks like within orangutans, differences can reach 6%. So their similarity went from 99.9% similar to 94% similar. We're going to skip gorillas for now. Go to Panpaniscus, 8% different. Wow, that's crazy. So you're telling me they went from 99.9 to 92 amongst themselves? That's weird. Same thing with our chimpanzee here, right? Really similar. Then humans have very low genetic diversity within our population, so it only dropped by about 3%, at least in this particular comparison. How interesting. What about gorillas? What's that number there? What's that? Oh, 13.8. I see. Well, now wait a second, guys. 13.8, that's a little bit higher than the difference between humans and chimpanzees.
Yeah. Can you, Erica, can you just say those
created gorilla kinds?
Can you just say those two numbers again?
Yeah, so the human and chimpanzee maximum difference by this gap divergence here is a difference of 13.3%. 13.3 versus gorillas.
Within the gorillas.
Yeah, within gorillas, which is 13.8 higher, actually.
Huh.
Weird.
That's so weird.
So that means there were two gorilla kinds.
At least. Maybe more. Who knows?
Let's take a look at our little chart here, actually. I think that might be a little bit helpful. So too much, 10 to 15%, Rob Carter said it, that's too much of a difference to actually get in 7 million years. They have 6,000 to get that difference. So a little bit less time, a lot more difference in organisms that are incredibly similar. Now, those of you out there might be wondering, like, that's really weird. Why are gorillas that different? Because they've experienced so much structural change, large-scale deletions, large-scale duplications across the entire genome, which has incidentally resulted in them having one of the biggest of the ape genomes, but it's also caused them to show up as super-duper different in alignment. But folks, hold on to your hats here, because we're going to scroll up to that percent similarity of the alignable regions, effectively, our S&V divergence.
Okay, but this is discrimination. I can't reach my hat.
Where gorillas are 0.3% different amongst themselves in the actual aligned regions. That's the percent similarity that would typically be reported. And likewise in chimpanzees and bonobos, or rather chimpanzees in both directions here, we're looking at a difference of 1%, 1.5%. So you got a choice here. Either humans and chimps are related, and so are gorillas amongst themselves, or no one is. Now,
and the gorillas aren't even all related to each other.
And the gorillas aren't even related to each other, right? So here's something else to think on. You continue for a second, Dan, while I find
I just want to say, counterpoint. God could have done it. However, the numbers don't matter. That's what Carter said at the beginning of this video.
I have to say, the fact that, first of all, the data or this information is in fact in the body of the paper, but even if it weren't, saying that, you hid the data in the supplementals, my guy, that's like saying the grocery store hid the milk in the dairy aisle.
Yeah.
That's where you go for the data, is in the supplementals. That's how a paper works.
Well,
here, hang on, Erica, I'm going to move your face up. Hang on, I'm going to switch. There we go. So now I'm not covering you when you're talking, when I have the comment up. Dapper, I apologize because I can't see your,
that's fine.
Your human avatar face. I can only see your dinosaur avatar face. But yeah, the data is hidden in the supplementals, and the books are hidden in the library. Oh no!
Hey, can I complain for just a little bit longer?
Please continue.
Okay. Now, that gap divergence can be a little tricky to actually parse out, right? So fortunately, they've provided in the supplement just a straight-up table called the alignment coverage of the telomere-to-telomere human, HS1, in an 8-way primary progressive cactus alignment. This is the alignment of all of these different genomes, autosomal regions, and then the X and then the Y, onto that telomere-to-telomere human. Now, this is where they mostly get, and Luskin pulled the verbatim number from this chart, and he said, when you look at the similarity between chimpanzees and humans, they're only 85% similar. Only 84.95% of the chimpanzee genome was aligned identically onto the human. That's so interesting, right? Hey, quick question. What do you guys think GRCH38 is? Because it's weird, right? You look at this and you got bonobo and then gorilla and then Bornean and Sumatran orangutan and then the Simang. But like, what do you think this is? And if you want to take a stab? Or how about I just spoil it?
That's the human one that was in Carter's graph earlier, wasn't it?
This is the human genome. This is a different human reference genome, which only aligns 86.96% onto the human genome. So, folks, hey, what's that? 10 to 15%. Too much. You can't actually get it in just 7 million years, let alone 6,000. Now, again, there's a good reason for this, and that's because structural similarity evolves very rapid across all lineages because it's not typically subject to intense selection. So this is not a big deal in conventional science, but if you want to use Carter's method here, then humans can be this different from other humans, and thus humans don't all belong to the same created kind. That's stupid.
I have it figured out. The wives of Noah's sons were each special creations created solely to be the wives of those sons, and they all had vastly different genetics. So
could be.
I mean, the Bible doesn't say that they weren't special creations.
Yeah. I want to add one last thing here. When we go to the orangutan specific comparisons, because orangutans are weird, and this was some of the first really good drafts, or not drafts, but like, I guess they were drafts, but like complete genome drafts for the orangutans. This was kind of new. So we got these nice Sumatran and Bornean orangutan comparisons here. So the reason I'm showing this is because it's always possible that Carter or that Tompkins or that Luskin could come back and say, the problem is actually with one of those human reference genomes. Now, set aside what I'm going to say again here in a moment at a later part of this video, which is that other independent papers have shown that the human-human similarity can also get pretty low if you use this just kind of dog shit method of actually comparing them. But like, here's a comparison between the Bornean orangutan and the Sumatran orangutan by that same method. 88.72%. That's 10 to 15% different. I guess the Bornean and Sumatran orangutan are also different created kinds, huh, Rob? Because 6,000 years, boy, that's really not enough time if you can't get it in 7 million, or really far, far less than that, to be fair, since these guys actually diverged. This is available for anybody to check, right? Anybody can go and look at this. Rob cites the adjacent data to all of what I've just shown you. I mean, he pulled this number verbatim, 85%, and directly above it, the number that is directly on top of it absolutely annihilates his point. And really creates major problems for young Earth creationism here in what is a very obvious way. I have one last thing I want to say, but Dapper, you go first.
Okay, so I think there's a fair chance that Robert Carter is going to watch this. And so, Robert, I want to ask you a question directly. What percentage...
That's awkward.
Sorry, that was terrible timing. Oh, that's pretty good.
That's perfect timing.
That's awkward.
That's awkward.
That's awkward.
So Robert, hi, it's me. I'm the guy who you decided not to credit with correcting you on the cheetah population census versus, effective population.
Dapper, historically, he has trouble correctly identifying you. We know that.
That's true. That's fair. But anyway, I have a question for you if you decide to watch this. And especially if you decide to respond to this, which you have done things like that in the past, so I think you might. What's the percentage that you think is acceptable within a... I'm going to not be as generous as Erica. Erica's going to give you 6,000 years. I'm going to give you 1,000 max. What's the amount of percentage difference between two genomes that you would accept as coming off of the ark? Because, and then what I would then like to know is, which species of mammals are within that you know of? Could you name 2 or 3? Just out of curiosity.
It's a good question.
That's it. That's my question to Rob.
All right. I want to get back to Erica because I just want to say how much I appreciate how mad Erica is about this bullshit.
Justifiably.
It's so good. Point, so please continue, and then we'll continue with the video.
Share my screen again if you would, please, Dan. This is a picture. I posted this to Reddit. It's a screen grab of a Reddit post that I did because I wanted this to be easily accessible to as many people as possible. This is my little quick reference literature search of every other time that we have gotten these numbers. like throughout all of the
Ooh.
draft genomes, right? So we have the original chimp genome sequence. We have Prüfer et al. In 2013. We have Preto Martinez et al. In 2013. We have Roger and Gibbs. We have Marseille and colleagues in 2018. Cronenberg et al. 2018. Seaman and Bugs, who like Rob Carter explicitly knows Richard. Well, Luskin knows Richard Bugs, but like Carter has referenced Seaman
It's
and
in
Bugs.
there. It's all.
And then we have you et al. 2025. In all of these, you can see specifically what was reported, but I'm going to point out one of my favorites here, which is Marseille and colleagues, who explicitly have a number of about 90%, really it's like 89, 90%, for the alignment of the chimpanzee genome and the human genome. Very, very close. And again, they're using that older version of the chimp and human genome, so they weren't even complete when Marseille and colleagues did this with their new version of genome alignments here. But like, this isn't new. You can go back earlier to when Richard Bugs just originally started complaining about this all the way back in about 2008, if memory serves, who was like, look, if we count all these copy number variations, it's going to be different. Fair enough. But you have to provide a reason for us to actually use this lower percent similarity method, and you have to apply it uniformly. Creationists cannot say that gorillas are all related, but humans and chimpanzees aren't in the same breath by this method, because it's going to isolate them both.
I mean, yeah, they will, they can, and they will, because
they can and they will.
They don't care.
They can and they will, but what I'm saying is they can't do that and be honest. They can't do that and be actually right. Okay, last one. I want to show you this. This is the same paper that you already saw from earlier. In A here, we actually have the lineage-specific structural region differences in euchromatin, centromeres, acrocentric regions, subterminal regions, etc. Gorilla, of course, is the biggest, and it's experienced the most amount of changes. And then lastly, I'm going to take us down just a little bit more to our gorilla and orangutan, where they've got this really, really weird situation going on here. I think it's right here. Okay, here. Yeah. So here we have our chromosome 1, 2A and 2B, 3, 4, and 5. And these are our, if memory serves, haplotypes. Let me just double check here in the information. Haplotypes, are they here? Yes. That sequence structure of alpha satellite HOR arrays. Control F haplotype. Okay, whatever. I'll check in just a second. What I want you to appreciate is the vast amount of differences of the haplotypes of these chromosomes within individual animals, not even species. These are the reference genomes, right? So we're looking at the two copies here. And in Pongo abellii, which is here at the bottom, highlighted by chromosome 4 here, look at the size difference alone between these two. It's funky. These are really, really weird. Same with the gorillas, right? Like this was pointed out to me by one of the authors of the paper, like that we've got like a very strange setup going on with orangutans and gorillas alike, because they've had these huge structural rearrangements. So like Rob would want to look at the differences within orangutans or within gorillas or within chimpanzees and bonobos and say that's genetic entropy, but it isn't, because in the case of gorillas, as you just saw all the way up here, we are looking at structural differences that are adding to the genome, not subtracting from it. This is addition, not subtract. This isn't genetic entropy. It's not just deleting enormous portions like what we saw with the right chromosome. You cannot appeal to this. And if you are going to, you have to have a flipping citation. Okay, I'm done. I'm done being mad for the time being.
The citation is the Bible.
What? No, that's the worst part. No, it's not. It's Rob's interpretation of the Bible. It's
right.
Enhanced
That's true.
interpretation of the Bible. It's like whatever they divine from it. Because half of America will tell you that this is a bullshit interpretation of the Bible and that they're doing Bible fanfic, which is what they are doing.
Right, that is correct. It doesn't say any of this in there, and there's no reasonable interpretation that gets you to this. It's a very specific thing, which again, Christian nationalism. It's the whole point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trust me, bro.
I said my piece. The bottom line with all of this is that no matter how you actually run the comparison, right? First of all, we've had these numbers for a very long time, as I showed you in my citations there, at the very least since 2018. But really, if you want to go with Richard Bugs, which these guys have been parroting this dude for so long, 2010. I mean, goodness, we've had them for a while. Alignment number is different from full genome, including insertions and deletions, which is different from protein coding regions. You can use any of the three you like. They're going to give you 3 different numbers. And as long as you use them in a standard way across these organisms, you are going to get the exact same family tree, phylogenetic tree, if you're looking at the similarity here on sequence identity, right? Like, full stop. So I'm so over this. I'm so over them trying to spin this into something it's not. And part of the reason why I'm upset is because I talked to the authors and they're irritated by this. It's just completely not at all what the entire point of the paper is. So not only is the information not new, but it's being applied incorrectly and inconsistently across organisms. And the paper that they're trying to cite for, which is U et al. 2025, actually showed an increase in the percent similarity when you're looking at the protein coding regions at 99.1+%. So anyways, let's continue.
Thank you, Erica, for all. You could just make that like its own little thing right there and just throw that at people.
It'll be like the 4th video that's that exact spiel.
Yeah, right. It's okay. So let's get back to this video here. We are going to skip around more in the second half of this because, and people in chat are like, are we going to finish this? Yes, we are. Yes, we are. So here we go.
In another 3 hours.
Shut your face.
5%.
That's awkward.
Really awkward. Now, some of that, though, will be lined up in the future. Some of that is, here's it's barely similar to the chimpanzee, and so the computer's like, no. And so they think it's a 0% match. Well, some of that will be lined up with better algorithms, and it's going to creep upwards a little bit, but it's not going to even hit 90%.
Which is far below what we started this conversation by talking about.
10 times more different than we thought.
And in the
10 times more different.
Well, and in the grand scheme of...
Okay. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. He knows, because he said it earlier, that these are different metrics. These are different ways of measuring. He knows. It's not that we had 98 and now we're revising it down to 85. There are 2 different measures. Both of those numbers are valid for their methods of comparison.
And
he knows this.
They both existed for almost a decade.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, none of the numbers themselves are actually new. And Rob Carter knows this. And in fact, Rob Carter predicted this because he's the one that showed the similarity in completeness between the previous version of the chimp genome and the telomere to telomere one. He knew it wasn't going to change very much. And it shouldn't, because there wasn't much left to sequence. What Marseille and colleagues were working with in 2018 was perfectly valid and should be very, very similar to what we're getting with this telomere to telomere stuff. And it was, which is why we can compare the numbers. So the method isn't different, but it's also not new. The methods aren't new, the numbers aren't new, which is why it wasn't news, which is why it was in the supplement. I don't know what else to say.
To give people who are not like immersed in this stuff an idea of like how dumb this, it wasn't 98, it's actually 85. There are 2 different measures. It's the equivalent of weighing somebody on a scale in pounds, being like, oh, they weigh 180 pounds, and then weighing them in kilograms and going, oh, no, we were wrong. They actually weigh about 80 kilograms. It's like, no, we didn't take the one number and revise it to the other number. It's 2 different ways of measuring the same thing. It's just 2 different ways, so you get 2 different numbers. Rob knows this. And you've got, the jolly host over here is like, ooh, that's awkward. That's a big change from what we used to think it was. And does Rob clarify any of this? No. And I think that's frustrating because I'm pretty sure he knows better.
It's for those of you who might be Bible brained, who might watch this, like maybe Robert Carter. Let's say I took a 1611 King James version of the Bible, which includes in the middle of it a section called Apocrypha, which includes things like Ecclesiasticus, Tobit, Judith, the extra sections of Daniel from the Septuagint, like Bel and the dragon and such. Okay. And then I'm going to do a comparison with a modern published KJV, which typically does not include the Apocrypha because Protestants don't like it. Cool. So if I say I'm going to align all the verses that have a direct parallel between the 2 Bibles, what's my similarity going to be? It's going to be almost 100% because there are some minor spelling differences between the 1611 and modern editions. But other than that, it's going to be pretty much the exact same thing. Okay. But then let's say I want to say, how different are they if we include the inclusion of the apocryphal books in the 1611 as part of the comparison? And I say, oh my goodness, the King James version of the Bible is way less similar to the original than we ever thought. No one is going to think that's a good faith comparison. No one. And you'd be right. It wouldn't be a good faith thing to do unless I'm just a complete idiot. So Robert, please let me know. Are you acting in bad faith or are you an idiot?
Also, that's a bad analogy, Dapper, because we all know that the King James version was the original version.
That's true. If you don't know what that's about, you need to go check out my channel because we are going through all the reasons why the KJV 1611 is the version of the Bible written by God before he even created the world.
There are approximately 6 people who found that funny, and all of them are either on this panel or in the chat.
Yeah.
Or are my co-hosts.
Fair enough.
Okay, so I just jumped a little bit here. And then we're going to go for, what am I going to do? Like, not quite a minute. There's a bit here where he basically says, well, scientists calculate this using models and population genetics, and it's just like stupid scientists and their models and their math. We don't need to watch that part. So,
how dare we build models?
Stupid scientists.
That's literally a flat Earth argument, by the way. Is like we don't need a model. That's just math. Who cares? Math isn't reality. Literally a flat Earth argument.
All right, here we go.
Genetics. If you had a population of some size, say 1 million, 10,000, 100,000, doesn't matter, but it's constant population size. Whatever the mutation rate is, that's the rate of change. So if the mutation is like 100 mutations per generation, which is about what we have, then the rate of change of the species is about 100 mutations per generation. That's what population genetics says. Anyone who's ever taken a class in college level population genetics, they learn that. Mutation rate equals the rate of change.
And there's a lot of math that goes into that.
A lot of math, which I didn't want to get into.
The bottom line is...
But we're not going to get into the math.
Yeah.
So that's like I said earlier, this is like very basic. If there's no selection, blah, 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 like you could just do the math. It's very straightforward. But like all good creation, no, we're not going to show the math. We're not going to show the math. We're not going to do the math.
Now,
like,
here's something.
Show the math.
As far as I know, Creation Ministries International has not accepted Randy Galuz's continuous environmental tracking, right?
No.
So
Correct.
They do believe that natural selection is a thing that occurs.
And I will add to that, Dapper, that I have seen Rob Carter saying that natural selection is a process that removes variance from the population. It is not a constructive process that can generate new traits.
And if something is under negative selection, it would be removed from the population faster than the rate at which drift would do so, correct?
Yes.
Yes. So what you're saying is if natural selection is a thing and a population is experiencing it, which virtually all populations are all the time, then the mutation rate doesn't equal the substitution rate.
That's crazy, Dapper.
Wow.
And Rob, that is also basic population genetics.
It's probably the same week.
It's probably the same week. It's actually, I'm trying to think, like in my evolution class that I do every summer, we do, it's summer class, so it's every day, but it's consecutive days where we do, we do like basic genetic stuff with Hardy Weinberg. And then the next day we start doing the mechanisms of evolution. So we say, here's a population that's not changing, right? And then we do selection and drift the next day, and we take those Hardy-Weinberg equations and we modify them according to selection. So it's within the same week we're doing what he is talking about here, plus adding selection to the mix. I don't know, man.
Whatever, dude. I'm like, I'm worked up. My blood pressure's high.
Right.
I'm so irritated by this.
You need a second White Claw.
I think I might.
There is a James Tour-like commercial in here that we're going to skip. So now we get up to...
James Tour-like.
Yeah, it's just a little pitch in the middle there. Okay. Now, this is going to be over a minute. But this is kind of like the point, because this is, I think, that third thing. And then the fourth one is like nonsense, and we'll get there. But this is the third one.
Dan, can I just say, like, to summarize thing 1 and thing 2, they were like, the number of similarities once you can align them is inconveniently high. The number of similarities that actually, we are just looking at raw alignment, which doesn't matter, is more convincing sounding to us. So that number is also important, but they never go over why that number actually matters, right? Like, the first one is obviously important because it's protein coding regions, but what about that second number actually is important? We never hear it.
Bigger. That's why it matters. Because they want a big number and it's bigger. It's not more complicated than that.
Exactly. Yeah. Always ask yourself this, folks. When you see comparisons between chimps and humans by creationists, ask where the third critter is to contextualize it. Every time ask that.
Yep. What was the outgroup? And yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Follow the link in the description. Now back to the show. So that kind of gets into the third question. If it is 15% different.
Yeah.
How many mutations are we talking about per generation?
We're talking about so many mutations that it would oversaturate any computer model. It would drive us to extinction also because most mutations are bad. We know that. There would just be too many mutations. They can't.
I'm going to break my own rule just to say he just brushes up against genetic entropy here. So I'm just going to say Hancock and Stern Cardinal 2024, address that paper or GTFO. Like, just that's it. Show your work, show why ours was wrong, or stop talking about it. That's it.
Also, I love the just casual way in which all glitched. Am I back?
You're back.
Am I back yet?
Yeah, you're back.
Hey, glitch.
You're back.
Hey, glitch. Okay, cool. Yeah. I love the casual way in which most young Earth creationists will be like, yeah, and like no one's considered this but us. We're the only ones across the 70+ year history of genetics that have figured this out. They just won't tell you. Why? To protect their evolutionist paradigm. Why? Because they want to sin. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
I got one of those in the wild just in the last week in like multiple YouTube comments. I got a bunch of you just want to sin.
And also we don't want to live in a country that's controlled by religious extremists.
That too. All right, let's continue.
Have that many. They might have been able to explain a 1% difference, given a lot of assumptions I don't agree with, but given them those assumptions, they might have. They can't explain 10%.
Wait, that answers my question. 1% over 6 million years. So if that's enough for 1 million years, we'll just assume a linear rate to be easy, right? So I'm going to go away and do a little bit of math, and we're going to figure out what the acceptable amount is for 1,000 years. And so
perfect.
There we
so
go.
What? Right, 1% over 6 million. You can do that while we let this play, and then let us know. Perfect.
It's just too many mutations, and that's the deal. So the whole argument's changed. We're not talking about percent similarity anymore. Now we're talking about how many mutations could have happened in evolutionary history and cannot explain the difference. But that's hard. And so science has thrown us a giant curveball. The nice pat evolutionary answers we had for the last 20, 30, 40 years are now really difficult answers, nuanced, and hard to understand.
And that's exciting.
It's exciting, but it means that people had to put on their thinking caps. They can't have the old, it's easy. It's not easy. But when you really dig into it, it's not in favor of evolution anymore. That's the exciting part.
We lost Erica.
Oh, no.
I don't know what happened there.
I think she'll probably be back, but I have good news, everybody.
I do think she'll be back. So Dapper, why don't you tell us what the acceptable amount of variation that can accumulate since creation is?
Okay, so I'm going with since the arc, right? So we have, and I'm going with 1,000 years to be very generous, because we have about that long to get all the different species to be established, right?
Erica's back.
And actually, you know what? I'll go for 4,500. Let's just multiply this by 4.5.
Let's make it easy.
Okay, so the amount of acceptable variation for a whole genome comparison, according to Rob Carter's standards for 4.5 thousand years worth of divergence, is we need species, whole kinds, to have a divergence value of 0.00075%. Rob, please tell me which genera of mammals meet your criteria, buddy.
Hang on, Dapper, I got it. You ready? You all ready for it? That's awkward.
Yeah, that is awkward, huh? I need to clip
Erica,
that
you're
bit
muted
from this video.
That's awkward, dude. Flipped.
Wow.
Absolutely flipped. That's awkward.
Man, that Erica, we need your that sucks insert
that
clip that you
sucks.
use.
Oh yeah. I love that clip. So
yeah,
good.
we need the that sucks clip in there.
I also love the okay. Okay. Got it.
All right. So that's your range here. And again, so we have the acceptable range in the creationist model, but also Rob is wrong about the evolution thing, because in doing that math, as Dapper pointed out earlier, he's not splitting it by lineage, so you have to just cut it in half because it's divergence from a common ancestor. So you, one, have to cut that number in half because the differences you're accumulating on each side. But then also, you have to consider, as we've been talking about from Erica, structural changes like large-scale insertions and deletions. That obviously you can't align a region that exists in one genome with a region that is absent in the other genome. But when deletions happen, those are going to be large-scale differences. So, like, he's saying 1% you can do, 10% too big, right? So there's a tenfold difference there. Now, he's doing this, he's presenting this as though every mutation that's going to happen is a single base change. But deletions can be 1,000 bases. They can be 10,000 bases. So if you had to guess, if you looked at all those deleted regions in the two genomes, or all the duplicated regions, what the average number of bases is per evolutionary event, per change, I bet that number is a lot closer to 10, if not more than 10, than it is to 1.
I mean, I would guess somewhere in the hundreds.
I would think that the average number per event, if you consider, large-scale changes as one thing, not 1,000 things, that number is actually going to work for the math that Carter says is impossible.
Yeah. Carter, though, you guys must understand, is the only person who has figured out this fatal flaw in population genetics that is a week 2 concept, right? Like, he's the only one who's figured it out.
We're both keeping it a secret, and also you learn this in your second year undergrad.
Right. Yeah. This is the duality of man, right? Like, it's simultaneously weak and powerful.
We're hiding it in the supplementals, I'd say.
Right. We're stashing it away in the supplementals.
We're hiding it in the supplementals. Yeah.
True. Or as he said it, stashed away in the supplement, whatever Luskin said, where he conveniently placed.
Okay. So this is going to be a short one, and then we get to skip a little bit, but this one's going to be a short one, because he just grabs the goalposts and goes for a jog.
And that kind of gets into the fourth question. How much time would be required to make this happen?
How much time would be required to functionally integrate
the
new things? Well, a mutation occurs in a...
All right, let's just right there. That's a different question, right? It's not how much time does it take to have the mutations happen. It's how much time does it take to functionally integrate all of those changes. Now he's asking a different question. And unlike the previous one, which we can quantify, we can look at substitution rates, we can calculate, because what he doesn't say, this is a little aside, what he doesn't say is like, you can't fit all this into 6 million years. Okay, Rob, what if we do the math and calculate it would take 8 million years? You know what we're going to do? We're going to say the time to most recent common ancestor is 8 million years instead of 6 million years. Like, if it does, we can just like adjust it within a reasonable range based on concordance with the fossil record. But for this thing, this integration question, now he's getting into like the Michael Behe woo of, it's complex, irreducible complexity, right? It's not that it can't happen. It just would happen too slow and you can't calculate the rate. And it's the vibes theory of the waiting time problem.
Also, I want to point out that when he's saying, how long would it take for all this to integrate? He's coming at this with the background context of the 15% number. But that actually only matters to the 1 point whatever number, because the 15% includes a bunch of stuff that doesn't have to integrate, like pseudogenes or repetitive elements and
Absolutely
deletions.
true. So true. Absolutely true. Yeah, and I guess, oh man, that's actually a really great point too, because that means that the differences that they're arguing are easy to get for gorillas and orangutans are also functional differences. Like those,
well, no.
the whole genome is functional. Those are functional differences.
No, Erica, you don't understand. It's easy to get in gorillas and orangutans.
Yeah.
But it's functional and impossible to get between humans and chimps. Like,
course,
to be
that
clear.
makes sense.
Because humans are special.
Why? Because they say so.
Yeah.
Because trust me, bro.
Holy.
Look, if God had specially created gorillas with all these differences, the Bible would be about gorillas, but it's not. So clearly it's the humans who are special.
I mean, you're joking, but also he kind of does that later.
Yeah, I know.
He does do that later. I want to add, too, that, like, when you said, what if it was 8 million years? And then it's like, well, we would just move it to 8 million years. We've had a varying range for the last common ancestor for humans and chimps, or for the hominins and the panins, that's hovered between like 6 and 8 million years of age. Yeah. Let's just say, I think the most recent, according to Time Clock, is, I think it's like 6.5 million years ago or something along those lines. And then it's like, wow, what an awesome prediction that set up for where we should find the oldest hominin. And how old is the oldest hominin? 7 million years old. You can't.
There you go. It's right in there.
It doesn't get better than that. That shouldn't happen. If this is all BS, like that just shouldn't come to fruition. It's not like we're arbitrarily moving the goalposts. Although Rob is certainly familiar with how to do that.
Oh, the goalposts are on wheels and they are flying down the street at this point.
Well, they're on jet engines. Is what they are.
Okay, so we're gonna give this about a minute here because there's a small thing here that is just like astonishingly stupid, and there's no other way for me to say it here. So like what he says here is astonishingly stupid. We'll yeah.
It's like Down syndrome is.
Yeah.
That is the copying of a little teeny piece of one of the smallest chromosomes and duplicating it, and it's almost fatal.
It's a relatively minor mutation.
Relatively minor mutation, and is barely survivable. Anything worse than that, you can't survive. So when you're talking about changing gene copy numbers, that's usually really bad. Or if you're talking about adding a new gene when one didn't exist before, you have all these biochemical pathways that are creating things in your body. Creating a molecule and then removing that molecule because it might be very toxic. A lot of the things that we produce in our bodies are incredibly toxic, and we change them right away to make them non-toxic. So if you add a new biochemical pathway, you might be wreaking havoc with biochemistry. So all these other things have to change. The thing that affects the pH of the cell, or the thing that affects...
Okay, so as many of you in chat have clocked, that was bullshit. Down syndrome is trisomy 21, where it is not a teeny piece of the chromosome. It is anywhere from a chunk of the chromosome to an entire duplicated chromosome. That's called aneuploidy when you have just a different number of chromosomes in your karyotype. It's most of the time it is the entire other chromosome because it's due to a thing called non-disjunction during meiosis, where you've got your tetrad like this, and instead of separating like this, the whole thing stays together, so you end up with an extra chromosome. He then says that's a teeny little thing, but a new gene or a gene duplication, which is no bigger than 1,000th of a chromosome, is a much larger change and intolerable. Rob, do you
also isn't
hear
producing
yourself?
A new chromosome? Like, if every gene duplication occurred on a whole new chromosome that didn't have a pair to line up with, that would probably be pretty bad.
Also,
is that a thing? I don't think so.
Hang on. Oh, I'm still ranting about this bullshit, because on the other side of it, and chat, I love that people, it's like you're reading the notes off of my screen. Because also, we just spent all this time talking about the Y chromosome and all those giant differences, right? Well, let's talk about Y chromosome aneuploidies and how there's literally no phenotype associated with having an extra Y chromosome.
Awesome.
Or you can have an extra X chromosome, and you know what? That's more or less fine too. So I don't know what the hell Rob is trying to say in that part, but it makes no sense.
He can't be getting this wrong accidentally. Honestly, like he has to have brushed up against this information somewhere before. I'll add that, hearkening back to what Dapper said earlier about the starch digestion, the multiple, like the reason why dogs can digest more starch than wolves is because it's not that wolves don't have the amylase gene. Dogs just have way more copies of it because for some genes, having more copies amplifies an existing function, if you, for lack of a better term, to simplify it. So it's like that's what gives the dogs the ability to do this. That's how a lot of shit like this works. If you have more than one copy, it amplifies the effect. If you lessen the copies, maybe it lessens the effect. But if you duplicate it, then you can neo-functionalize that duplicated copy and get something completely new while still retaining the old function. And we watch this happen unless Rob thinks that notothinioid fish aren't related to other fishes that live directly adjacent to them in the sea. It's so stupid.
That was really bad, Rob. Like, come on, man.
He knows better than that. I do not believe. I believe that was him doing oversimplification to the degree that the information is lost.
Yeah.
Completely. Or he was lying. One or the
Let
other.
me play just a short bit here.
Evolutionary theory, biology is really complicated.
Yeah.
Say it this way. If life were simple, evolution might be able to explain it. Maybe. Because evolution, at random, might be able to figure out some really simple changes.
Not random.
At
Not random.
Yeah, evolution is not random.
We're not just randomly plucking letters out of a bag and just plopping those letters down. That's not how it works, Rob. Like, you know that.
Also,
you know that.
Sorry. Remember, he implied that he understands that genetic drift is a thing. And hey, here's a fun thing about genetic drift. It increases complexity over time. So you just leave a population alone with no selection, it's going to get more and more complex.
Dr. Zach Hancock has a fantastic video on that.
So
excellent.
The idea that being simple would make evolution more plausible is actually like the opposite.
Yeah.
We would expect things to be simpler if they didn't evolve. Evolution results in absurd Rube Goldberg nonsense.
Yep.
Which is all over biology. And then here comes creation. It's like, oh my goodness, it's so absurdly complex. How could natural selection have done this? And it's like, well, it didn't. It was mostly genetic drift. But that's just how the population genetics works out.
Yeah. If you thought that was bad, talking about how bio is complex, therefore something, wait till you get this part. We're gonna just play some greatest hits right here. Let me tell you.
But the more complex life is, the less probable it is for evolution to explain it.
It's almost like it gets exponentially more difficult.
Yes.
Because now you've got all these relationships between, it's like the network effect when you're talking about business or something. The more lines of communication that you have and the more relationships that you have, the more complicated things get and
the more delicately balanced your entire structure is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're talking about the cells like a factory that can
drink.
Yeah.
I mean, what are we doing here, folks? What are we doing?
Evolution is like a car. Evolution is like a factory. Evolution is like a business. It's like anything but learn the mechanisms.
Just every time I play Factorio, I'm actually creating life on my computer right there. That's what's happening.
Right.
I just want to point out to everybody remember how we talked about at the beginning how Rob Carter is like one of the best, if not the best, professional young Earth creationists, and we're still getting this. The cell is like a factory. Checkmate, atheists.
It's just clown time.
Like, what are we doing? Come on, Rob. Absolute amateur hour.
Rob, just put on the makeup for a clown.
Right. Just
you might as well.
Nose.
Own it.
I would be more willing to give benefit of the doubt to like, okay, he's trying to make an analogy that's going to make something, make sense to a layperson audience. No. But then it's like, I remember the preceding 20 minutes and it's like, wait, no, that's not what this is at all, right? Like this is spin. At least that's what it feels like.
Yeah. All right, we're going to give this like 20-ish seconds and get another blatant falsehood. Here we go.
It can also reproduce itself in 20 minutes. That is a delicate dance that can't be manipulated without killing the whole system. There's so many parts that have to come together. And you're going to throw a monkey wrench into that? A brand new gene that's never been seen before that does something new and opens up a new biochemical pathway? No. It's almost
Rob,
every change like that is going to be lethal to the cell.
That was your work. You did that. That's what the gene patents were, Rob.
You literally did that.
What the fuck are we doing?
Wait, also, what is he trying to say here?
He's saying new genes will kill the cell.
So
hang on, we'll go back. Hang on, let me go back. Like, here. We'll do just this little bit because let's see exactly what he said right there. Just want to get this last little bit. Hang on.
A brand new gene that's never been seen before that does something new and opens up a new biochemical pathway? No. It's almost every change like that is going to be lethal to the cell.
What?
What are we talking about?
Rob,
That's not true at all, Rob.
Rob, you know that's not true because that was literally the research you did. You took random ass genes from one organism and just shoved them not super carefully into other organisms.
Oh my God, Rob. I mean,
and then they worked.
I mean, look.
It did the thing you wanted.
So one of my favorite books right here on evolution, the like intro evolution book I always recommend is Neil Shubin's Your Inner Fish. It's right there. It's a great book. One of the things he talks about in this book is how you can take genes, not genes for like a little fluorescent protein like Rob did, but you can take genes that regulate development. Yeah. And you can move them from like a fly to a bird. And that gene will do the same thing and it will work. And you can take a gene from one part of the embryo and have it express in a different part of the embryo. And like there's this cool thing about like with like digit development where if you transplant a cell from one part to another, you basically just change the pattern of gene expression in that embryo so you get a thumb on each side instead of only one thumb. Like we can do these experiments manipulating not just like small scale stuff like Rob did with the fluorescent proteins, but developmental regulation. I mean, we're not going to go into, I'm not going to go into the details. I'll leave it to either of you if you want to, but the ultrabithorax thing is such a great example of this. Not going to do the details.
This is body plan manipulation that we've carried out experimentally. And also that we have observed in natural populations. That's what ultrabithorax is. It's where you accidentally have a fly and their halteres develop into full-on wings. And so they have two sets of wings, just like a dragonfly would. And so this is the primitive condition that actually set up a great prediction for us where it's like, oh, what would the oldest insects look like? Well, they should have the primitive condition. And lo and behold, they've got these four wings just like we would expect. But it's like, so we've saw that naturally in populations, but then we can also induce it in the lab. It is shockingly easy to do, far more so than you would think. The cell is not like a delicate flower. The cell is just like a sludge of stuff that is happening.
It's just biochemical interactions.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And it's complicated, but complicated does not necessarily mean elegant. And it doesn't mean you can't tinker with it.
Yep. All right, so there's a section here. It's about 25 seconds. And it's just a look how complex it is thing. And then there's like a 2-minute, 3-minute digression about photosynthesis that we're not going to watch. But like we'll just
we mentioned it already.
We'll get the flavor of look how complex it is, and then there's a really notable part right after that.
And so the evolutionists have to explain the rise of thousands of new genetic factors. Genes being regulated up, regulating down, brand new genes appearing out of nowhere, genes disappearing, while keeping the organism alive. And that's the challenge. The more complex life is, the less evolution can explain. And all we know from biology is life is really complex.
Right.
There's no more substance to that, folks. He doesn't like, therefore, irreducible complexity, specified complex information, or complex specified information. He doesn't do any of that. It's just like, it's complex. Evolution can't explain it.
And like, what are you talking about? We evolved multicellularity in a lab twice. What are you talking about? And we
those are just colonies, cells. Erica.
Because colonies don't have differentiated cells. It's crazy.
We're directly observing endosymbiosis happening in multiple species of animals, like a dozen right now. Like,
and some non-animals too.
We're watching lizards transition from egg laying to live birth right now.
Not just live birth, but like actual placental development.
Yeah.
Because live birth could just imply ovoviviparity, where the eggs hatch inside, but that's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's actual placentas. Yeah. Okay. So this part is there's one really notable thing.
Tide comes in, tide goes out. You can't explain that. Never a miscommunication.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. This part has one very notable thing from Rob that I think we want to just
You want to build that up from nothing? Good luck, Mr. Evolutionist. It's not going to happen.
Okay, so first of all, that was the photosynthesis bit. That's how we ended it. Now we can do the new thing.
And actually, I don't want to build it up from nothing. Biology doesn't start with nothing, Rob.
Yeah.
Back to the chimpanzee human question here. When we add things to complicated systems, we overcomplicate them and usually break them. That's their problem, not ours. Humans and chimpanzees are built from scratch by God, and it's beautiful. And yeah, we have similarities. Okay. But we're too complicated for them to explain. There's too many differences.
Okay, so species level creation of chimps?
I guess maybe he would also include bonobos.
I'm sure. Yeah. Okay.
So
But
maybe genus level special creation.
Like what? What actually needs to be so fundamentally different? What new system needs to evolve between humans and chimps? Because we have all the same bones and the same muscles and the same organs and the same teeth and the same brain regions. The emphasis is different on a lot of those things, right? But what functionally is new that has to evolve?
Until chimpanzees create a liturgy for use in a temple, they don't count.
Like straight up, that's what he means, though.
Yeah, it is literally what he means.
I've tried to explain this to creationists so many times because they think that to get a new body structure or a different form of a body structure, you need a new gene. Because a lot of creationists, in part because of terrible science communication that they're getting from the people that they listen to, they seem to think like there's an arm gene and a wing gene and a this and a that, and it's not.
Someone will even say that.
There are There are genes that say extend from the midline. There are genes that say branch as you extend. There are genes that say fold inwards. There are genes that say kill this group of cells, right? We're going to do apoptosis, right? And you can look at a limb that has different morphologies, and it's a different expression pattern of the same genes. You don't actually need new genes. You're just so like an arm is such a great example because it's a combination of the extend and the branch gene, because we have one bone and then we have two bones and then we have more and eventually we get to 5 bones, right? It's extend and branch in a pattern. Well, if you are being like, for example, a bat wing, once you get to your digits, the extend gene lasts a lot longer, and the gene that says get rid of the tissue in between your digits never turns on. So you keep the webbing and you have really long digits, and that's how you get a bat wing. That's a completely different structure functionally than a human arm, but you don't need new genes to do it.
What's different there? Like, and I'm asking, if Rob deigns to respond, what is actually new that needs to evolve? Not a behavior, an actual characteristic that you can point to that needs to evolve that is completely new.
Yeah.
I mean, chimps even have proto versions of Broca and Wernicke's region. Like, I don't know what we're talking about here. But I think that Rob just doesn't know very much about the subject. Truly, I think he's just not very well versed in it. He cited contested bones in his article.
That's a problem. That is a red flag right there.
Yeah,
huge red
I've realized we need something as like a society, and it's a book specifically. Someone needs to make an updated version of The Greatest Show on Earth, and that someone needs to be someone who is not an Epstein Files alumnus.
I nominate Jackson Wheat.
I nominate Jackson.
Get on it.
We're just giving Jackson homework over here.
Yeah.
This can be your next whale penis project.
There you go.
He loves those.
I mean, he really does. He has a whole video about them.
Jackson catching strays over.
He's
literally
fine.
Nothing that we said isn't true.
I know. I didn't say that. I just
also,
said he's.
if he were here, he would be like, true. He'd be like,
it's true,
yeah,
it's true.
yeah, that is me. You got my number.
That's true.
By the way, Jackson will be on my channel in under a week, most likely. So
nice.
Just saying.
All right, we're gonna go. This next bit is important because he again gives up the game, and that's useful to watch, just so we have it.
Does it so
for
often?
them to explain. I said earlier, it doesn't matter how different we are. God could have made us as similar or as different as he chose. What percentage is important? For us, it doesn't matter. It could be 2%. It could be 10%. It could be 20% different. Fine.
So unfalsifiable.
Thanks, Rob. We're good.
Awesome.
No prediction, and it's unfalsifiable.
Awesome. We're good. thanks. We'll just keep that one in your back pocket, everybody, just so we have, I'm just going to put this up. Just cool model, Dr. Carter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
He's been hitting the galaxy gas with Rob Stadler. Like they've just been hanging out, packing
and Sal's in there too. Sal's in there doing a Dr. Dan.
Robert
God could have just
Byers?
done it that way.
Robert Byers too. Same situation. We got the whole gang.
All right. So this next part we can skip here. There's like a bit of a summary that's like a minute and a half where he kind of goes through the 4 thing.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that again. So I'm going to hop up to 2605 is where we're going to go here.
Hey, before we start it, I do have a question. If a confirmed prediction is the gold standard in science, what is an unfalsifiable position that makes no predictions? What standard is that?
Standard. The poo-poo egg standard. Bad.
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Yeah, here we go. We'll do this for like about 15, 20 seconds.
Is more complicated than any factory.
Shut up, Rob.
Yes, it can change within limits, but you can't change it too much. And you can't add brand new things without causing massive problems. But evolution requires massive changes and brand new things appearing.
So does young Earth creationism.
Yeah.
Every
sorry.
Every created kind contains separate species that have taxonomically restricted genes. So creationism requires a mechanism to get those new genes.
Hell, some species have subspecies with taxonomically restricted genes within them.
Yeah.
And also, oh no, I lost whatever I was going to say. Forget about it. We'll just keep going. Who cares?
Also,
Nothing
we can directly document like new things evolving. We can see new traits evolving in the lab and in nature, whether that's new proteins or new functions for proteins, or like we talked about, multicellularity, which if creationists want to play the multicellularity is not a complex trait, that's only microevolution card.
That game over, dude.
Then like be my guest. If you want to be
honestly,
like,
game
okay.
over.
Oh,
like you can evolve differentiation between the cells. All right, sure.
I do
love
remember.
to hear that.
Virtually nothing is actually new in evolutionary biology. Almost everything that you're going to encounter from the most recent common ancestor of entire kingdoms on is just going to be variations on what came before. And it's only with hindsight and the benefit of only looking at certain strips of time that we consider these things to be different, right? Like the brain isn't a new structure. It's new arrangements of the neurons that existed beforehand, before creatures had brains, right? Limbs aren't even new structures. They're just outgrowths from the body wall of tissues that were already always there.
But Dapper, every cell in a body that's like in any, let's just say animals, for example, right? Mm-hmm. All of our cells are just specialized versions of ancestral cells. There's nothing actually also new in any animal. Just follow that logic as far back as you want, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, true. You can find the genes for building eyes in creatures with no eyes. You can find the genes for building brains in creatures with no brains. And the reason is because those genes, those, for lack of a better term, those genetic elements have been repurposed. They've been put in they've been mutated, and now they perform a different function, if you will, right?
There you go. Yeah. New take. God created each individual cell specially. Yeah.
Last nanosecondism.
Yeah,
I mean,
right?
There are strains of Islamic theology that would actually say, yeah, that's true in some ways.
Can't argue with that. And if I can't argue with it, then it's like, okay, whatever. Who cares? You can take that ad nauseum if you want.
There is a digression that we're going to skip where he harps on the definition of fixation, and it just doesn't matter, but he does get the history of it wrong, and we don't have to worry about that. I don't know what the point of it was. It doesn't matter. So we are...
I know what the point is. He thinks his audience are complete morons who don't know that the word fix has more than one meaning.
There you go.
Because they've never heard the phrase fix in place.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah. Okay, so we are going to do a bit here. Here we go.
Spreads to everyone, and now it's a fixed difference.
All right, that's good.
30 million single letter differences between our two populations, or two species. 30 million in the areas that align. tens of thousands of chromosomal rearrangements must have occurred. Hundreds of thousands of little insertions and deletions. Gene copy number differences. Adding and subtracting genes. That's the type of differences we're talking about between the two species. It's massive number of differences. They cannot explain it in their time frame.
Again, he's conflating single base with larger scale things and saying you can't fit it. And then Erica, show us the whiteboard. Say the words, Bart.
Say the words, Bart. 10 to 15% difference. You got 6,000 years, or as Dapper put it, 1,000 years, right? Like you have far less time than we do,
They have
Rob.
400 years.
400 years.
Screw that.
And
I was generous and gave them 4,000, and the number was
divide that by 10.
0.
You get 400.
And let's just take a minute to point out, because I haven't done it yet, at least not formally. Rob just got done saying that 30 million. Let's take his logic, right? 30 million differences is too many differences instead of doing percent similarity here. Okay, double it. Triple it. That's the difference between rats and mice, right? Like I don't like. It's actually far more than that. I'm being very generous with the actual amount of differences, and that goes down to the chromosomal rearrangements. The difference between common rats and the Norwegian rat and the sort of common house mouse. The difference in their chromosomal structure, right? Like the amount of chromosomal rearrangements that have happened between these, like since these two guys split off from one another tens of millions of years ago, is unreal. You can pull it up in Genome Explorers and see it for yourself. I mean, it's all over the place. So if Rob wants to accept that rats and mice are related, not only are they more different than humans and chimpanzees genomically by every single metric, but also their chromosomes are far more rearranged, and they've integrated these, just as he has a problem with for humans and chimps, all sorts of different new genes along that pathway. Because again, protein coding similarity, they're less similar than humans and chimps. So they have every problem the human chimpanzee comparison has, but like tenfold. And yet I am positive that Rob would accept that these two are related.
And correct us if we're wrong about that, Rob. But then that introduces some, I think, unforeseen consequences into your model, let's say.
Yeah, and like I said, hey, I came up with 0.0075% as the acceptable range for creationism. If you disagree, tell me what your number is, which animals meet your criteria, and how you got that answer.
This is actually, I just had this thought as you were saying that, Dapper, because one of the things that we've all harped on in our ways over the years is creationists have no standard for where the kinds are, but you could use, if they want to do this waiting time problem math, take the standard that they apply to the human-chimp divergence and say, let's look at the pairs of species or the groups of species that are that similar to each other in the real world. There's your maximum number of created, or your maximum scale of your created kinds, right? So you could find all of those groups that, in theory, you could split them finer than that, but that's as broad as your created kinds could get. So that someone could get, who's the group? It's the New Creation people are always working on this. Can we get them on the horn? You know, maybe they should do the waiting time problem math that Dapper did in order to figure out what the kinds are.
And my
Peter from Paleologos, let me know.
My first thing is going to be African and Asian elephants. Longer generation time than humans and chimps, and extremely large genomes, like typical mammal genome, but like bigger than what you would have for a bacterium. More different than humans and chimps.
And you're going to have to include mammoths in that because they're more closely related to Asian elephants than to African elephants. So if African and Asian elephants share a common ancestor, mammoths are in there too.
So you got the right, and then that means you have to have a wider range of divergence. So you've got the Neanderthal problem, if you will, right?
Yeah. Which also, by the way, that means mammoths are in fact elephants. So if anyone tries to be all snooty with you and like, well, it's not actually an elephant, it's a mammoth. No, tell them they're stupid. Mammoths are elephants.
Well, they might just not know. They don't have to be stupid.
I'm just encouraging people to be mean because I feel angry.
We did just spend 2 hours watching Rob Carter, so.
Yeah.
So for this part, for Erica and Dapper, because we were chatting in the green room rather than planning. So it's this part of the video, whereas I told both of you earlier today, my brain shut off because this is the part about like humans having the breath of life and chimps not using tools or whatever.
Yeah.
So this is the part where I'm just like, I don't care. So Erica, you want to rant about tools for a minute?
Listen, all I'm going to say about this is that Rob at one point says that the tool use that we see in corvids, so your crows and your ravens, is more impressive than what you see in chimps. And specifically, he's like, they take a tool and modify it and take it somewhere else. He's like, chimps don't do that. Yes, they do. Full stop. Yes, they do. My favorite example of the types of tool use that they do this for is when they sharpen sticks with their teeth, form them into spears, and use them to hunt bush babies. Like, if that's not making a tool in a classic sense, I don't know what is. I'm gonna go ahead and share a picture with you here. Dan,
also, don't we have a stone tool archaeological record for chimpanzees?
We do. Not just
Weird.
that, but it goes back thousands of years, and those are modified. But Rob might say, oh, just because they're carrying a stone and an anvil from one point to another, and the differences in how they pick the stones and the anvils like differ arbitrarily depending on the chimp community in question, as well as the means by which they teach these skills to their offspring, meaning the minimum definition of a culture. He's going to say those tools are stupid and dumb, and those actually don't count. Because
those tools have never written a Bible, so who cares?
I guess. So here's a chimpanzee using a stick that she has sharpened the tip of with her tooth or with her teeth, and she is using it to stab at a bush baby that is hidden away in that hollow. It's pretty sick. I'm gonna show you, since this is like a screen. Can I
metal.
Is that changing? Did that change for you?
It did change.
Yeah, we got the other picture. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another one. That's a chimpanzee examining the tip. This obviously not sharp enough yet, but he's planning on using that. This is an orangutan using a spear to try to hunt fish. He's trying to copy what he saw local fishermen do. That's a cute Simang. There's the tip of one of the spears. I'll zoom in here so you can see it actually
That looks like something that my mom would have said not to do anything with because I could put someone's eye out with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is an intentionally modified stick for the purpose of killing another animal, right? Like, that's the minimum definition of a spear. I know I have some others here. Here's chimpanzees cracking open nuts with stones, which is kind of cool.
But that doesn't count for Rob because they just took the stones. They didn't make the stones into anything.
Right. And likewise, he'll say that termite dipping doesn't count, but the sticks that they use to termite dip or the twigs that they use to termite dip, are actually modified.
Yeah,
right?
They have to strip them.
They have to strip them. So, that's modified too.
Totally.
On top of that, I mean, they'll chew up bits of leaf into a poultice, and then they'll use that to actually soak up water so they can carry their water with them, as a sponge. That's
cool
tool use. We've got, there's one of my favorites here. Let me see if I have it.
We're going to be here all night now that Erica's doing the primate slideshow. We're going to be here all night, and that's cool.
I'm literally just going through my ape pics section. This is an orangutan who was being observed as a part of a long-term study I can't remember if he was in Indonesia or if he was in Sumatra. Anyways, he took a bit of plant, right, that's known to be used by local tribal groups as a medicinal plant that helps accelerate healing, and he chewed it up into a poultice and packed that wound that you can see on his face. And if memory serves, he did it more than once, and it healed the wound faster, right? They treat themselves with medicines. Chimps do this too. They'll treat themselves for parasites. They'll use ants to try to clean out the wounds of conspecifics. These guys aren't dummies. Here's this individual who's using ants on that little wound that they've got there. That's just knuckle waffle.
Erica, I think chat knows exactly what you have on deck here. Just next skull comparisons, but just give us the full Erica primate slideshow.
I could, but I won't because I know we don't have a lot of time. But
we
that's
have,
just wrong.
Yeah,
and I emailed him
just
about
wrong
this.
And dumb.
When I emailed him, I was like, your primate cognition is off, and that's what I got my master's in, so I actually can speak as an authority on this. That's off. And then he also says that elephants have more complicated, he literally calls chimps dumb animals, and he's like, elephants have more complex social systems than they do. No, they don't. Chimpanzees manage groups sometimes of 100 individuals in large-scale fission-fusion societies, and they know everyone in those groups and manage the relationships differently depending on the history with those individuals.
And chimps have more friends than the average millennial.
They do. They carry out revenge. They carry out vengeance. They play
Am I wrong?
Right now.
I'm irritated by this. It's just an incorrect thing to say.
What he ultimately comes down to is chimpanzees can't be Christians, so they don't get to count.
So they don't count.
And I'm not even kidding. He's like, they can't know God. Which, by the way, chimpanzees engage in ritual behavior in very similar ways to that humans do. So it's actually not clear that they don't have some kind of analog for religious activity. But like, even if they didn't, dude, you're coming down to humans and chimps can't share a common ancestor because one of them has churches. That's
like
what
that comes dangerously close to me to excluding people groups, like through space and time. Because not every people group is practicing religion in the same way that Rob would. I'll add too, elephants bury their dead. In the fossil record, and when I say we here, I'm including creationists who try to make sense of the fossil record, typically use burying your dead as a proxy for spirituality. Right. Because it implies that you think something is going to happen next and you don't want anything to happen to that body. And that's distinct, mind you, from just body disposal. Like burial is different from just disposal, which ants can do. So it's like we have elephants observed in the present who bury their calves. And then they dig a hole, they put them in the ground, they put dirt on top of them, and then they avoid that spot. Right. Like, what is that? If not burial, right? It meets a bare minimum. So, but that doesn't count. That's just because they're not making a headstone, I guess. Like,
I will say, from what I've read, they usually use pre-dug holes that usually humans have made to bury them, and don't normally dig holes. Yeah.
Sometimes they do, but sometimes they do. Like sometimes they use pre-dug holes, but sometimes they root deeper with their tusks, and sometimes they'll attempt to dig holes themselves.
So, I can go back to the video here, but I need to know from you two. Is there anything important to cover in the last?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it's just it's always the like we find God part at the end.
Oh no, chimpanzees don't have churches. I guess they're dumb.
I always go back through anyways and like splice these videos when I repost them in some shape form down the line. So I'll add, if I feel like adding anything, I'll add it then. But no, it's the usual. It's actually like, in some ways, it's worse than Rob's usual fare.
So, folks, we got a couple things, a little bit of housekeeping we do need to do here. So first, while we were going, I did not pause for Super Chats, but I got a whole bunch of Super Chats here, so I want to run through those real fast. So we've got Left-Handed Jedi, Wonder Twin Powers Activate, Shape of an Atheist, Form of an Evolutionist. I don't know exactly what that means, but okay, thank you. I appreciate your generosity. Thank you for being here.
Also, we would be Wonder Triplets?
Because there's three of us.
Yeah.
So Steven251134, is that Australian, Dapper? Is that what that is? Yes, thank you for $2 Australian dollars. It's what, dollar dues? Yeah, that's the appropriate. Yeah, thank you. For keeping the band together, Heart, love you guys. Thank you. We are going to try to keep the band together more frequently, or at least like get more regularly, you know?
Yeah, more regularly.
We're gonna try to do this more. The goalpost for Lieutenant Matt Nav, $5. The goalpost has always been 30 yards past the fence around the parking lot in football. What are you on about? Yeah, that's true. The goalpost is always, wherever they feel like putting it.
Why would you put the goalpost on the field? That's just silly.
That's just making it easy for the other team to score. Yeah. Duh. Again, for another $5, thank you. Dorito metabolism is the primary diagnostic criteria for the humankind. I missed that when it came by the first time.
Oh, that's good.
That's pretty good. I like that.
Oh, I guarantee you a chimp would beat the shit out of you for your Doritos. And then
they're gonna destroy those Doritos. Here we go. Again, I'm assuming your name is Matt, and I appreciate your generosity. Thank you. The Labrador, Chihuahua, and Boxer kind. Easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking, Erica, you talked about the kind of the changes in the proportions of the pelvis, and creationists like, ooh, too much. Dogs, not even wolves, just dogs have way more variation in that stuff than
Canis lupus familiaris.
Yeah.
Well, and they always like to use that as an example of like, how do we know that the types of the evolution that we're seeing through time is actually evolution, when like we see these evident changes in dogs, and like dogs all live right now, and it's like, first of all dogs are related, so that's checkmate number one. And then checkmate number two, these fossils are separated by time. That's the difference.
Right. But what if all dogs aren't? What if Bubblegum Gun is correct? If nobody knows who that is, just don't even worry about it.
Oh, no.
But if you do,
that's a name I haven't thought about in a while.
That is elite ball knowledge. Like the bubblegum button is.
That is so far down the iceberg meme. That is so. That's the
We're in the
Alvins.
Mariana Trench on the iceberg meme on that one.
Yeah, it's bad. I'm way too far down the rabbit hole.
He's like still around too, is the crazy part, and he is the butt of many jokes for that.
He thinks dogs and wolves aren't related, and speciation never happens. So you know what? He deserves it. From Gupdo3 for $2, we're watching lizards transition. Good for them.
Yes, good for them indeed.
Trans rights. We
love the lizards.
Good for them. Tracer317 for $5. Thank you. I move that good luck, Mr. Evolutionist becomes the new checkmate atheist. I saw in chat people had seconded that. We're just going to say all in favor.
I like it.
Aye in the chat. Let's just see if that passes. I want all in favor. Aye in the chat.
Dude, Rob makes me laugh so much sometimes with that shit. Like the one that I always go back to is my brother in Christ. Would you really say that you're a brother or sister of the Lord? And it's like, dude, come on, man. Like, are you just totally unplugged? Like, it's just a joke. Like, it's a meme. I don't know what to say.
My brother in Christ is a meme, and he didn't know that and got really offended that time. Yeah.
Yeah. He was not happy about that.
All right.
I would like to see him do that and then have someone say just yes. Yes, I do mean that. Because the person speaking is, in fact, a Christian who's calling him out.
Any nays in the chat? Any nays oppose the motion?
I do like that Mr. F used the wrong eye. That's fun.
That's pretty good. All right. Seeing no objections, the motion passes. Motion carries. Good luck, Mr. Evolutionist is henceforth the new checkmate atheist. Thanks, Rob.
Good luck, Mr. Evolutionist.
I do like that too because it also includes all like the theistic evolutionists.
Yeah, it's good.
So
it does exclude Erica.
No.
Oh, that's true.
No,
yeah. Sexism strikes again.
Yeah. Classic. Excluded. Yet again. I'll manage.
I'm fearfully and 1% differently made from Tree Clam Tad for $2. Thank you, Tree Clam Tad. That's
great illusion.
Also, Tree Clam Tad for $2. I don't make headstones for most of my burials. Okay. I'm assuming you are involved in the industry, and that's an interesting insight.
No. It's recreational.
Tree Clam Tad just has a passion for digging graves, you know?
It's all good.
We don't need FBI, except Mr. or Ms. FBI, or neither. That was a joke.
Yeah.
Vishanti, thank you, Vishanti. I believe in last nanosecondism. Who's to say?
Why
all
not?
The same?
God just did it that way.
He created the neurotransmitters in the synaptic cleft.
I mean, he's omnipotent. He can do that.
I mean, this is like unfortunately on the same playing field as the stuff that psych art has been doing a little bit too, where it's like biology needs a new way. It needs to reincorporate theology into its methodology.
Erica, like a third way, you would say?
Like a third, a third way.
Like a third way.
Yeah, a third way. And it's like, okay, but
could this way be extended?
I guess.
Into a synthesis? Could you do that?
Yeah.
I bet they might try.
They could make an effort.
They could try. Okay, and then we have one more here from Love True Music 1 for $5. Thank you, Love True Music 1. Continuing on the band analogy, when Professor Dave is here, it's like when the lead singer goes solo and then the band has a reunion. Well, you know, it's considering, how we've worked with Dave with the DI series, it's like, it's Bob Dylan and the band, and then the band is now doing this is the band, and that, right? Yeah,
I feel like people don't actually know the extent to which Professor Dave's evolution videos have also kind of been Science Friends videos.
Those are,
Well, he's open about that.
I mean, he attributes it to us. Yeah.
Oh no, I'm not saying he's covering it up. No,
I wasn't.
No, it's not a secret.
For anybody who might, not know, he's very open about that. But yeah, it's like, we cheer him on from the background, but we're also doing our own thing, and we're making our own. We're gonna get there.
Okay, folks, thank you for all those. I appreciate all of your generosity while over 200 of you were hanging out watching us talk about Rob Carter. I appreciate all of you so much. And before we go, the last thing, we got a little preview, a little treat here for you. So Dapper, why don't you tell everyone what we're about to see?
All right, so you guys might not know this, but for a while we've had one or two group chats that's just us three for planning these things, and we've called it the Triumvirate for a while. And so I've decided I want to make that branding a little bit more official. And so in addition to placing this into a playlist on my channel called The Triumvirate, which I would encourage my co-hosts here to also do on their channels.
We should totally do
I have
that.
also created a little intro video for when I host this.
Sorry, it did the autoplay. I apologize for interrupting you.
Yeah, that's right. So this is it. I came up with it. It's possible it might be revised here or there, but my plan is when I host this, which I think is the next time, but I'm not positive. I'm going to play this at the beginning, and I'm also going to be giving the raw file to my co-hosts here in case they want to incorporate it. But Dan, if you could, let's listen to it.
Let's see
all the things.
The triangle is a really nice touch. I want to pull that up to show everybody, just so they can get a chance to.
It's the phylogenetic tree. So
I know
cute.
it's got the tree in the middle. It's really good.
Love
so, Dapper, why don't you explain this to everybody? Because I could do it, but I want you to just walk everyone through this because it's really good.
So first of all, there's a triangle because we are the triumvirate, and a triangle is in fact a three-sided polygon. Yeah, so we all get that. It says the triumvirate. And also it has a motto, which I came up with, which is Proscientia et Ludibrio, which is, of course, Latin for science and mockery. And then in each corner is a skull representing each of us. There's a human skull for Dan. There is a gibbon skull for Erica. And, of course, well, I couldn't find a really good Ceratosaurus skull, so it's an Allosaurus skull. So my apologies there. But, I know. But then, of course, they are united by a little weirdly shaped phylogenetic tree where I am the most basal branching member of the group, and then Dan and Erica branch more closely to each other, which is the correct shape for the tree.
Oh yeah,
and that just forms a little symbol in the middle, if you will.
Dang, Dapper, we got what is that? 3 nodes? do we make out 3 nodes?
Oh no, we're from the arc.
Oh no, it is a rooted tree. It's got a root. It's got a root.
That's
the
true.
branches are all over there, but
yeah,
it's got a root.
Well, the thing is, with only 3 terminal branches, if you don't root it, it's just a star.
There's
nothing there.
Right.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
I thought about I was like, how could I do it so it's not a rooted tree? And I was like, I can't. There's just no way.
Yeah, you got it.
So root right there.
Well, I appreciate that, and I love the motto. And like we said, folks, we are going to try to make this a more regular thing. We've done this in the past. We did the Dismantled series. We did Dr. Rob Carter Gets Everything Wrong. So we'll try to do this more.
I think
we also did another one, didn't we?
We did. I forget. It's been so many years. I can't even believe how many years it's been.
We probably did something else. I don't know.
Well, you all want to feel old. My channel is coming up on 6 years.
Yeah.
Oh God. Same, I think.
Yeah.
I know.
You were around before me. Both of you were.
Not by a lot.
Not by a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I can check. Hold on. I can check. What I was going to say is that, there are a lot of topics that I think we could really just do a little tiny bit of digging and just kind of hammer. And that have popped back up that I'm ready to sort of have something out for, like a nice little go-to for it. You know what I mean?
I mean, for next time, Rob Carter did make another video about dinosaur soft tissue only days after this one was released.
No, that's crazy. Oh my God. And it's got something on it that's like, okay, yeah, Dan, mine is, I'm coming up on 7.
Yeah.
Wait, I just passed my 7th, I think.
There you go.
Yeah, joined March 4th, 2019. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah.
Soft tissue.
And the tagline is something to the tune of it still smells or something, like talking about like the soft tissue still has like a rotting meat smell in it, and it's like, when did it die, Rob? Last week? What are
Yeah, right.
you talking about?
Well, Eric, last Thursday.
Last Thursday.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
There
exactly.
you go.
Exactly.
That's what happened. Yep. Folks, I think we have made it. So, Erica, what do you have coming up soon?
Man, shoot. Too much. Most of the stuff that's happening to me is external to the channel. Like I fly out at like 8, I think, tomorrow morning to go to the ABAs. I'll be in Denver for that. I'm speaking at the Secular Hub there. I'm giving a talk on deconstructing pseudoscience, so that'll be cool. If you're in the Denver area, come see me. I think it's like $10 at the door. I don't know. They handle that kind of stuff. I do have my next talk with Will Duffy on the 15th of April. That's going to be covering a whole lot of stuff. I'm like eyeballs deep in work right now. And my hope is to have a video about this, like basically truss up what we're doing here into like a more formal released video, as well as some videos on several subjects that I'm actually, just earthquake, that I'm eager to talk about. I want to talk about some bonobo violence. There's a cool paper on that. I want to talk about chimpanzee vocals. There have been an absolute crap ton of stuff about Neanderthals lately that I need to like talk to other people about and get my ducks in a row about what I think about all that. There's a really weird hypothesis by David Reich that I'm having trouble sort of wrapping my head around. And then, obviously, there was this crazy Gracopithecus femur that came out, and now all of the race realists are talking about out of Bulgaria, even though this is a freaking hominoid.
Every time you get one of those fossils in like Greece or the Balkans or something, it's just a wave of stupidity.
And they don't know what it is. Like, they don't know what Gracopithecus looks like. This is a very basal ape, you know what I mean? You really don't want to be saying that. So I got to talk about that, but then I'm going on Flint's channel to talk a little bit about that, and then I'm going to repackage that video. A lot of stuff going on. No time to do it. I'm writing my dissertation. I'm like eyeballs deep in my second chapter, but I'm also still doing analysis on the side. So analyses on the side. So it's like things are shaping up, but not quite with an eye shot of finish yet. Anyways,
dissertation defense talk stream when?
Actually, my plan is to record it. The actual defense, like
I was gonna say you should do like practice runs. Though. You should like let's do it.
That's a great idea. I would love to do that. I would love to practice it on you guys. Give my little spiel about why my methods, why my new Bayesian application to these teeth is very novel and cool. So that would be really cool. I'm shooting for like a summer. I'm hoping maybe summer. We'll see. Fingers crossed.
Awesome. Dapper, you always have your ducks in a row. What do you have coming up?
Yeah. Well, so let's see. Tomorrow at noon, I have a video premiere. That's noon Pacific, by the way. That's 3 p.m. Eastern. For those of you who are in weird time zones. I have a video premiering. Sexual selection is fake. Now, I do want to say there is a additional context in the pinned comment and in the description there. So if you're going to watch that, please do check those out, because during the creation of this video, I was unable to find a source because, well, Don Batten, the creationist in this video, didn't cite a source. And when I was looking for it, I couldn't find it. Other people since found the source for me. So the video was made with the assumption that he didn't cite a source. And so I said, well, as far as I can tell, you made it up. So, which is still true. As far as I could tell, he made it up. Okay. If you don't cite your source, I don't have to believe you.
You made it up. Fair enough.
There is that. So then on Friday, over on my second channel, Top Hats Off, the plan is that we are doing the season finale for season 2 of my Let's Play show, Star Trek Endurance, which is a actual play TTRPG show where we play Star Trek Adventures. It features me. It features Craig McNeil, FTFE, Chesh. It's got Jordan from Reason to Doubt, one of the science friends. It's got Maddie, another one of the science friends.
Let's go.
So yeah, it's a fun time. And you know, it's just a fun time to hang out and tell some fun stories. And I've actually had a number of people say that this really does feel like watching an episode of Star Trek, which is the goal that I had set for myself. So
well done.
Then on Saturday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, I am going to be doing another episode where we go more into why the 1611 King James Version of the Bible is not actually just some random version from 1611. It is the original version written by God himself.
Written by God.
Yeah. You think the Greek and the Hebrew and maybe the Aramaic take priority? No. English is the real language of God. What do you even
say to that?
Someone is
Well,
really
watch the
courageous
video.
enough to say it.
Right.
I'm so
Just-
glad, Dapper.
Just-
And then next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, the plan is Jackson with Jackson, which is my show with Jackson Wheat. I have texted him, but it was fairly recent, and I'm not sure if he's going to get back to me, but he's almost always good for it, so I'm planning on that being a thing. Also, you guys know that Jackson and I met up in real life not that long ago? That was fun.
Amazing.
Let's go. I met Jackson
Yeah.
in real life. I was at Jackson's wedding.
Well, I was at Jackson's work, so I got to pet a stingray.
And
Well, those
I-
were really similar. Being there for Jackson's holy matrimony in a cathedral with his wonderful wife, and then going to the reception. That's pretty similar to going to his workplace and petting a stingray.
I also got to touch a sea anemone and a sponge.
That was
Okay, that elevated.
brutal.
Yeah, exactly.
That was Erica. See, I think Erica's just still mad at Rob, and now Dapper's catching strays.
Listen,
But also, I
you
was
guys-
there for a wedding. It just wasn't Jackson's wedding. It was my
you guys
brother's
are
wedding.
also very aware that I am very powerful when I'm pissed off. When I get
Yeah.
mean,
Oh,
I
yeah.
can be really mean. I just don't get that mean that often. So, but yeah, you are catching strays. You're
It's okay, I'm
It's
collateral.
like, sometimes you're just like, I'm in a bad mood. It's not about you, but we should not talk right now.
Yeah,
No, I
you
mean,
are in
after
the
this-
crossfire.
I'm probably gonna go like load up like Darktide and just kill a bunch of heretics for a little while.
There you go.
I'm gonna go to bed. That's what I'm,
I'm
gonna
also
do.
going to bed. I'm checked in.
Yeah,
I gotta
see,
pack.
I'm in what's effectively the Pacific time zone, so like it's not that late
Yeah,
for me.
You're chill.
All right, I have things. I have things coming up. I'm somehow like ahead on my videos. I'm behind on my emails, which evergreen.
Evergreen.
So
Evergreen business.
there's about 10 people I owe emails to, and if you're one of those people, I apologize. I will get to it. I'm working on an exam currently, which is my least favorite thing that I do in my job is writing exams. But I have a video ready to go for this time next week. It's about herbs. It's really cool. It's one of those quick, here's how you defeat this argument videos.
Nice.
Then I got a Rob Stadler thing that is from the last time we were together with Vishanti, and it's Rob Stadler getting everything wrong about the Lenski long-term evolution experiment, and
Awesome.
me. It was everyone see how Erica was mad tonight. That was me with the Stadler thing with the Lenski experiment. It was
Nice.
just like the dumbest shit. So so that's what that is. 2 weeks from now. And then the week after that, I get a Jeanson thing because he loves this prediction about finches that he made. And what actually happened is the opposite of what he predicted.
Oh,
but-
classic.
but
Also,
he doesn't-
evergreen.
Evergreen, he does not understand population genetics, so he thinks they're the same, but they are the opposite, which
Aw,
is a
epic.
classic genre for creationists.
Also,
and then
oh, sorry.
and
I
then
know
I
you had one.
will have, I hope soon, I'll get those emails out to plan the boot camp thing.
Ooh, yeah.
So that's going to happen. I just need to get my ducks in a row for that, and I, as is tradition, do not. But I will.
The last thing I think we should say is, hey, there's a fair chance that you're not subscribed to all three of us. You should check. You should
Well,
go do that.
I will say, if you're it's basically a bullseye. So if you're subscribed to me,
Dan,
probably
I'm sure
know.
there's some people who are subscribed to you who aren't subscribed to Erica, and subscribed to me who aren't subscribed
Absolutely.
to Erica.
Yeah,
There must be a few.
there might be 2 or 3, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah. Maybe even in
Maybe.
chat.
maybe even
But
in
like,
chat.
yeah,
So
check all of us out, because if you like this stuff,
You're the love.
you're gonna like the stuff that's on everyone else's
yeah,
channel.
you should definitely click the links and then hit the subscribe button, folks. If you haven't, while you are here, hit the subscribe button, the like button,
Share.
the share button. If you're a creationist, if you're Dr. Rob Carter, maybe hit the dislike button. I don't care. The algorithm
Yeah.
doesn't care. So
If you're
just
Rob Carter, hit the email button and then hit the download button on the paper that you claim to have read and read it.
Yeah. Also, if you're Rob Carter
ouch.
and you want to admit that we're right about everything, don't make a response to this. By not doing that, I will assume that you admit that we're right about
By
everything.
opening the box, you have agreed to the terms of service that are in the box.
Dapper has just hit Rob Carter with third grade playground warfare. A classic trick.
Got him. All right, folks, this has been a lot of fun. Erica and Dapper, I appreciate you hanging out with me. This is always fun. Folks, as always, for me, don't get fooled and stay healthy, and I will see you whenever I see you live
Fuck
next.
ice.
I don't know when that's going to be. Bye-bye, folks.
Bye.
Bye.